Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ask a Scientist Gaming, where we combine mediocre gameplay with expert science. I'm Ken Hansen, Associate Professor in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry at Florida State University. I'm a photochemist/photophysicist, which means I shine light on molecules and then see what those molecules do, whether it generates current via electron transfer or energy transfer or does photomechanics, whatever it might be. But more importantly, joining me today is Dr. Adam Dewan. Adam, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology in the program of neuroscience, and my area of research looks at our sense of smell, and particularly using sort of the basic research side and looking at using mice to sort of understand how odors are sort of mapped and encoded within the brain.
What do you typically teach?
I have two classes that I typically teach, sensation and perception, sort of understanding how the brain processes different sensory systems, and then the sort of neural structures that are related to that. And then the other class that I teach, which is sort of outside my comfort zone, but sort of really fun, is psychopharmacology. So we sort of talk about drugs of abuse and what they do to your brain. And so that is a sort of a fun, outside my expertise, but sort of a fun thing to learn about and teach about.
Yeah. Are those are grad classes or undergrad?
No, both undergrad classes.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the psychopharmacology one is one that definitely draws a lot of interest.
I was going to say that's popular.
That's popular one.
So is there a prerequisite, or that's just?
There's several prerequisites,
Okay.
sort of like basics of the neuroscience courses of brain behavior and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're not checking their natural science box with drugs.
That'd be funny.
I mean, if you guys want to up your numbers, that's probably a good way.
Yeah.
All right. Equally important, what game are we starting with?
We are playing Skylanders, the trap team version of it, and so we're just running around here in the main area. But we can have we can go into a level in a minute and sort of run around. And so this game is sort of fun because you have little characters. And so here's like the guy we're playing right now, and so you actually have a physical little character, and you put him on this portal, and then you can play him. And so this was a game that I used to play a lot with the kids, and the kids used to love it, to collect the little characters and play around with them, and then be able to play them in real life in the game as well.
That's really fun. So you have the honor of being the first guest that has a character-based game on the stream. So congratulations.
I think it's the kids that
talk to you.
Congratulations, yeah, or so they be.
I mean, thankfully it keeps us young, right? We're still
Yes.
gaming. We're not old yet.
Yes, exactly. It definitely makes it fun for us.
As I was talking to Justin about that a couple weeks ago, like, what does our nursing home look like? And the answer is like Xbox Live, right? It's going to be video gameplay and whatever. All right, is there any lore people need to know about this game? Any backstory that they need going in?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll see if I can sort of remember. There's the central bad guy, which is Chaos. He's sort of, the bad guy trying to take over the world. And then there's all of these good guy characters that come out, and each game had different sort of types of characters. This one was a fun game because you could actually capture the bad guys and play them, and other ones had just other characters, and they sort of have a fun sense of humor, and some of the characters have like sort of funness to them, and so I'll show you a couple of them as we sort of go along, but nothing really, just the typical run through, get the bad guy, run through, do some things, so nothing at least that I can remember.
No worries. All right, yeah, you guys will have to let me know how the volume is. It's we hooked up a new system. Adam brought his own Xbox over, so we hooked that up. But let me know if the volume's too loud or too quiet. Also, Mez starting out strong with Take a Drink. So Adam, cheers! Thank you for joining me on a Wednesday night to video game, drink some alcohol. Hopefully, you guys in the audience have drinks in hand. Maybe not. I don't know. Do you have class in the morning? Maybe don't do that. But totally up to you. We'll have some fun either way. So Mez, cheers. Hopefully you have a drink in hand.
Cheers.
Hanging out on Wednesday. Speaking of which, do you teach tomorrow?
I do.
How early?
At 9:45.
Okay, it's not the 8 a.m.
Nope, it's not the 8 a.m. It'll be good, and it's sort of a fun way to sort of run around and start the class. And maybe some of I did advertise to students, so maybe there's a couple of students that they'll sort of recognize as well.
Macaroon Garono, first time chat, and thank you for the follow. Thank you for joining us on Ask a Scientist Gaming for the first time. Probably one of yours commenting, hey, from the land of pumpkins, Michigan, call me Mac. Presumably this is someone you know.
I don't know.
I'm just a watcher tablet, not a gamer. I'm a writer guy. Nothing published yet, a work in progress so far.
Now let's get
Nice.
We respect all gaming on the stream.
Of course.
Oh, that's fun. But yeah, Macaroon Granola. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. If you have questions for Adam, throw them in the chat, but we'll start with an easy one since you're settled in and you're ready to play. Chances are 6-year-old Adam wasn't like, I'm going to be a psychology professor in a neurosciences program at Florida State University. Obviously, there was a convoluted path that brought you to where you are today. What was that path, and what were the major milestones in retrospect, that the fork in the road where it was clear where you were going?
That's a great question, and one that is a sort of a more convoluted, I think, and not less direct path than some other people have taken. So 6-year-old Adam was obsessed with fish and diving and snorkeling and all of that stuff, and just wanted to spend literally as much time underwater as possible. And so that sort of continued fishing, anything related to fish, anything related to water. And you can, like I said earlier, that's not what I work on right now. And so that sort of transitioned. And so when I was looking at graduate schools, I was looking for places that I could study fish, was really what.
So what was your undergrad degree then?
It was in biology.
Biology, okay.
So I went to Haverford College, which was right outside Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And then I still love fish, did some research. The closest thing to fish that I could find at Haverford College was studying the ultrastructure of a photoreceptor of a marine worm. And so I was like, it's marine, that's the ocean, that's close. And so let's do that. So
it was your first foray into sensory perception.
It was my first foray into it, and it was sort of using, and I don't even understand how it even happened, because they sort of let me free on a TEM and just said, here, learn and use it.
Wow.
I know. Now I look back and I'm like, I would never do that. But like I sort of got that opportunity to sort of
so you were like TMing cross sections or something?
Yeah, and so learning how to section, going into, and then the sort of instructions from the PI there, it was in mostly undergrad university, was just keep taking pictures. When you find something interesting, come show me.
Yeah.
And so I would just go take pictures of stuff, and like we just kept looking for stuff. It was a sort of wild experience to do that, and it sort of transitioned from there.
So briefly, for those of you that don't know, TEM is transmission electron microscope, which resolution is probably what, 5 to 50 nanometers, something like that. So you got really zoomed in pictures, almost molecular level imagery of things. And so you were looking at the sensory receptors, the neural pathways, presumably. So.
Yeah, and so specifically like the sort of the structure of the photoreceptor and the sort of cilia that were in there. Very cool.
All right, so then the transition after that.
The transition after that was grad school fish. I went to a lot of places, and so I basically went and looked for places that had a sort of a graduate program and being able to do some research with fish. And so I looked at a bunch of different areas, and then I sort of settled at the University of Hawaii. And if I were to show you a picture right now, and you want to sort of Google the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology, and you see it's like the most amazing place for someone who wants to study fish, Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology.
How about building a bridge for Skylanders?
Yeah. And so just go to the images of it, and it's literally its own island off of Oahu.
That is glorious.
And it's surrounded by this sort of pristine coral reef. And so when I sort of say that the thing I miss most about grad school is the commute, like I'm not joking, like it was really the best part of going there, was driving up across those Palisade Mountains and then like sort of going across on a boat every day to the lab and sort of seeing fish and stuff like that. And so that was a really amazing part of graduate school. And so then I studied fish, and specifically studied coral reef fish and how...
So briefly, sorry, I'm going to transition so they can see it. There's the Institute.
So this was everyone's probably too old. I'm almost too old, but it was also the beginning shot for Gilligan's Island. If anyone remembers that show, like it's like predated even me, so maybe not.
Yeah.
But it is, it did that, and there was a lot of like Lost and stuff was also shot there. So we can have fun stories about that. And so the lab that I worked in studied coral reef fish, but also studied sharks. And so there's if we want to go down memory lane, we can talk about shark research some, or if anyone wants to.
Well, Reese Piece says the first question, was it a 3-day tour?
I wish it was a 3-day tour. Grad school took a lot longer than 3 days. That's a great question, Reese Pieces. So,
well done.
Yeah.
Thank you, Reese Pieces. Welcome back to the
stream. That's very well done. So yeah, studied coral reef fishes, went there and sort of learned across the process that it was really like the brain that I was more interested in than fish, right? And so like I love fish, I still love fish, but it was very much so like I wanted to look at the brain and sort of do that. So that transitioned me to a postdoc, and for everyone who's thinking about being going to do a postdoc, and so my original plan for being a postdoc was actually working in fish again still, and applied to go work in this place that like the best. Still he's an amazing scientist, one of the best sort of fish geneticists looking at fish social behavior. He's at the University of Texas at Austin. Oh, so this is a fun part of the game. You can sort of trap these bad guys and put in a trap. And so if we put in like a tech trap, it can capture the bad guy into the game. And so the traps sort of look like this. And so this is like one of them. This is not the one we used, but you can sort of trap the bad guy in there.
Wow.
And then you can play as him as you move forward.
So you don't have to trap it. You don't
have
that
to.
thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have
so
to.
the cinematics change in response, and that's really cool.
And so then you can decide to choose the one that was already in there or the new one. And so if we play this new guy who just was in here, we can put him through, and then you can play as him. And so here we're doing, playing as that bad guy we just did.
Yeah.
He's not great. He just sort of like explodes on his own. So we'll go back to someone who's a little better. But that's sort of the fun part of this game. Anyway, graduate school, postdoc, looking at that ones, and it was a real like transition moment in my scientific career, because it was wanted to go there, wanted me to have there, and we were writing grants to sort of get it and didn't get those grants. And so I decided to have a switch of research, and I wanted to work on mice. I always wanted to do more genetics, which is why I chose that. Big change to mice, to be able to not have correlative questions but causative questions, to be able to manipulate the actual genome of mice and stuff like that. And that's where I fell in love with olfaction. And sort of the ability to have such a genetically tractable model that allows you to manipulate the sensory system and behavior, and system that's obviously important for the mouse to be able to do this stuff. And that sort of transitioned me. Yeah, go ahead.
So is that inherent to their genetics, or that's just they're so well understood that it's easier to study?
Oh, both actually. So mice in general, right, are one of the a great model organism to be able to understand how all this stuff works. And so you have that based in idea, but then you also have the sort of genetic tractability of the olfactory system. And so the olfactory system is, we don't have to get like all into it right now, but it's a very cool system because one gene regulates a lot of the control of the whole system. So
I see. It's something easy to knock out.
It's something easy to knock out. It's something easy to manipulate. And so one gene controls, so every sensory neuron, the primary sensory neurons that are basically what allows you to detect odor, they have a receptor, and each of those only expresses a single receptor. And that single receptor determines entirely what the system what that sensory neuron responds to. There's nothing else. So if you take that receptor and put it in a different sensory neuron, it will respond only to those odors that it is activated by. So it allows you to manipulate one gene and really like influence the system, which is one of the things that we sort of take advantage of in my research, and it's one of the reasons why I sort of fell in love with the olfactory system, because of its like ethologically its importance for behavior, but then also its ability to manipulate it to ask questions about the brain.
Very cool. Macaroon Granola has a follow-up. I'm one of the very few writers on Twitch that does nonfiction. My subjects are fossils, species, and the ocean. I'm not an academic, just a struggling creative type who reads lots of science books. I'm an aspiring documentary playwright for the live theater. That's awesome. Welcome to the stream. We welcome all sorts to Ask a Scientist Gaming. In fact, the reason we do this on Twitch is we want to reach people that we wouldn't traditionally talk to. We spend a lot of time in our academic bubble, and it's awesome to get out. You guys can ask questions behind the anonymous shroud of chat, and you can ask anything you want or anything you might be curious about. So yeah, welcome to the stream. Their follow-up, I read the science book about fossil sharks titled Resurrecting the Shark. Very fascinating read for sure. Resurrecting the Shark. That's
Wow,
intriguing.
that's an interesting title.
I mean, sharks haven't changed much over several million years.
Amazing parts about them.
I've heard of resurrecting dinosaurs. I don't know if you've seen that genetic manipulation they're trying to do. Essentially try to get from, like, take a chicken that has, executes the beak genetic sequence, but it still has the original, like, dinosaur DNA in it. So they're trying to, like, retro-engineer dino genetics via expressing that kind of stuff, which is kind of crazy. All right, Oslo Fan Club, welcome to the stream. First time chat, thank you for joining us. You should click the follow button, but also they want to know, Dr. Dewan, what's your all-time favorite video game?
Great
That's
question.
a hard one.
It is a hard one, and it depends on like the age and when you sort of started playing video games. I mean, the one that I played a lot as a kid and was the Mario ones, like everyone did, but also the Legend of Zelda was a big one. But if I had to just do one for the rest of my life, it would have to be some sort of like sports game. Because I think that was the one thing that always like kept my attention, and like I remember this is gonna sound really geeky and clearly I think, but like asking my dad to go photocopy a bunch of like things so I could keep my own stats for the original games, because they didn't keep stats, and that was like my favorite part, to see like how many stats we got and runs like that. And so like I had like a sheet of papers that had like my own way to like keep track of the stats, and like I would keep that. I don't know what I was thinking. It was like made it the fun.
The funny part is you're not alone. My brother and I did that for Tecmo Bowl and Bases Loaded.
Really? That's what I did. That's exactly what I did for. It was for Tecmo Bowl, and I don't remember the name of the baseball game, but it was exactly it.
Yeah, no, it was because they didn't give you stats, right? They didn't record anything, but you're like, I ran a lot that game. I need to know.
Right, exactly. And you wanted to know like if it was the most, because then after you started winning the games more often, then you had to do something else to kind of keep that interest level up. And that was I remember the Tecmo Super Bowl was always, grew up in Philadelphia, so a big like Eagles fan, and so QB Eagles was always like the guy and like running around being Randall Cunningham and have
That's awesome.
And whoops, thanks. And so
If you want to play some Tecmo Super Bowl, we can bust that out.
I haven't played it since a kid, but yeah, let's like if you want to play it at some point, let's definitely do it, because anytime.
Mine was Tecmo Bowl, but both of them, they had Bo Jackson problems, right? Where he was just overpowered. And,
the ones, and then you could just like run backwards and then turn around and throw it the entire length of the field.
So for fun, it was during COVID actually, after the daughters were back in school, but we weren't going back full time. I started speed running a bunch of video games, just beating them as fast as I could. And I played Mario was one of them. The other one was I speed run Tecmo Bowl. And you're like, how do you speed run Tecmo Bowl? And the answer is you spend as little time between downs as you can, right? Okay. So if you can run around the entire quarter, that's your speed run. So that was essentially the idea. You run down, you run back, you kill as much time as you can. And so it's the classic is Bo Jackson, especially on the Japanese version. You can't. He's the fastest character by far. So we'll bust out some Super Tecmo Bowl.
Let's do it.
Macaroon Granola wants to know if species change from one to another, then this. Sorry, let me copy and paste this so I can read it outside of chat. All right, science question. If species change from one to the other, then what species did fish originate from? So I guess that's the evolution question of, if there are humans, why are there still monkeys? What's your answer to that? As a biologist / neuroscience psychologist, you have a broad swath of evolutionary biology.
Yeah, so like I like to think about it more in terms of like species evolving more so than coming from one to another, sort of like that transition of their babies were slightly different, and so then it sort of slowly morphed from one to another. But the sort of basics of the question is related to what did fish come from, and fish were some of the earliest vertebrates. And so, right, so you're talking about, man, I hope I don't like date myself. It's been a while since I've thought about stuff, but like the cartilaginous fishes were the sort of first one. So it depends on what kind of fish you mean. So most fishes, when you think about like a goldfish or like a reef fish, those are teleos, so those have bones to it. And then a shark has, cartilage, is ossified cartilage. And so sharks and those sort of ossified ones were before that. And then even evolutionarily older than that is sort of the hagfish and the lampreys. I'm pretty sure that's right. And so it's. Fish are pretty been around for a long time, though.
I mean, so speaking of evolutionary biology, so I'm familiar with vision to some extent because I do photochemistry and things like that. And my brother worked on a project as an electrical engineer talking about, shapes of lenses and things like that. And that naturally correlates with evolution, and vision is one of those things that's independently evolved several times with several different species. Is the same true with smell, or is that understood?
Oh, that's a great question. And so there's some difficulties to answer that question. And one of the difficulties to answer that question is that smell is fundamentally different in the water than it is in the air. Right? Because right, there's molecules that are traveling, gas diffusion, and that's sort of how it works through the bulk airflow and then through things. So there's a lot of structures that are really similar, so probably not.
Oh, interesting.
But it's impossible to really say as well. And there's a lot of species, like one of the things that's really, I don't know, I use one of my facts, but one of them is like that the dolphins don't have an olfactory system. So their blowholes where the olfactory bulb, which is sort of the first neural structure that sort of processes the olfactory information, is not there, and it's replaced. That's where their blowhole is, and so like they're presumably, as far as people think, is the last time I heard was that they don't have an olfactory system. So
did they have it and lost it?
Yeah, because I think that, I mean, again, trying to remember all this stuff from Introbio, but I'm pretty sure that dolphins are thought to have like recolonize the ocean. I don't remember the name of that, but they were from, their ancestors were land-based species, and then they went back to things. So they presumably did, because their land ancestors do.
And I never thought about that, the dramatic difference between sensing that in water and gas. Like, it was probably evolutionarily more efficient to start over than to change that.
Yeah.
Mentally, and that's crazy. So the first things that walked out of water couldn't smell anything, and they just, collection event.
It is sort of that, but the one thing that's interesting about it, that's sort of related, is that there must be, I mean, the reason why I said probably is that the odors, when we smell them, they sort of bring them, you mentioned your sniff, right? And you bring those volatile chemicals into your nose, and then they sort of dissolve into mucus that's on your in your epithelium. And so that's sort of, maybe that was how the thing worked before too.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and then when you just had this is harder to do while talking.
No, we're impossible, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give Adam a little break.
No, that's right. And then so it may have just been that, right? Where it's like, that's one example and one thought why it could be similar.
Yeah.
Is because it sort of still has that aspect to it. But that's why I guess, but I don't know.
I mean, so presumably early in the evolutionary change, the sensory aspect was a lot less discriminate than it is now, right? Like, it would see a lot of things as similar or perceive them. Is that true? Is that a reasonable guess?
I think it's a reasonable guess. I mean, like, some of those earlier, the evolutionary old species have fewer receptors than other ones, and you sort of assume the fewer number of receptors, the less things you can discriminate between. And so, hagfish and lampreys have, like maybe in the 10s, 20, 30 sort of receptors, where you're talking about mice have 1,000. That's one of the things that's really difficult about studying the system, is sort of like the complexity of it in terms of the receptor level. If you compare that to, vision or something like that, with just the 3 cone photoreceptors and 1 rod, it is...
Yeah. It's less variables, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, catching up on a few Reese's Pieces. How far back do you have to go in fish ancestry to find something that the layman says not a fish?
That's a good question. I don't know. Like, would you consider... I think some people would maybe consider a hagfish or a lamprey a fish, because it sort of looks like an eel. That's sort of what it looks like. So I think you'd still call that a one. And then before that, you're talking about, like other things that swim in the ocean. I don't know. I think that I think it depends on you, what you decide.
I mean,
this is in terms of it.
You're touching on one of the most fundamentally difficult part of the sciences. Is we really love to classify things, but there are no distinct boundaries in anything. We just arbitrarily draw lines in the sand.
Yeah, and I think you're also talking to the wrong person, because I tend not to really get into. So I'm going to switch to a different character this time, and so get into those discussions of whether it's one species or 2 species. To me, I'm like, it doesn't excite me scientifically as much as some other people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It depends on what your flavor is.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, cuddle puppy lightening it up. How many fart jokes have we made so far? Cuddle puppy, we're only 24 minutes in, and you are the first one.
Yeah, I don't remember it so far,
but we'll make sure to incorporate them throughout.
I'm gonna try to put some in.
That's awesome. All right, we have a Witted Chimp. Welcome to the stream. Can you talk about how COVID affects the sense of smell? We should actually do a prediction. We have one related to COVID-19. So, Witted, thank you for the comment, and also we're going to do a prediction based on your comment. This will be a nice segue into it. Also, we're a half hour in, so we might as well do a prediction. I want to make sure I get through these because there's a bunch of fun ones here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with the stream or not familiar with Twitch in general, they have something called predictions. Predictions are usually used to, it's basically predict the outcome, typically of a game, like will Adam beat this boss or will he not? So you can gamble your internet points however you want. But we don't use them for gaming, or at least not typically for gaming. Instead, we use them for science questions. So I asked my guests to come up with several science questions that we're going to ask throughout the night. And what we're going to do is pop up that science question, and you guys can bet your imaginary internet units on which answer you think is correct or no are correct, and you can scale your amount of points based on your confidence in that answer. And so, yeah, I'm going to pop up a question. You guys are going to have standard internet units. If you're not following us, click the follow button. That'll give you 300 additional standard internet units where you can gamble more, and they are useless outside the stream. They can make us take a drink. You can request a factoid. You can unlock emotes, but they don't do much more than that. So really, this is a sense of pride on how much you know the science behind these questions. So I'm going to pop up this prediction right now. And the question is, which sense was more affected by COVID-19? The sense of smell or the sense of taste? And thankfully this is getting more well understood now. Is there anything you want to add to the question? Or I think it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, if you guys haven't done this before, at the top of your chat you can see a predict button. Click that button and it'll allow you to pick your answer and also decide how many points or internet points you want to gamble on that particular question. Acid D Dancer, thank you for following us. Acid D Dancer, I would love to know the backstory behind that name. Frostbite, thank you for the follow. Use your standard internet points, gamble them on the science question. Which one is more effective, the sense of taste or the sense of smell? Out of curiosity, did you lose your sense of taste or smell during COVID?
I did not. Okay. I did have COVID, like pretty much most people did. But I did not lose my sense of smell or taste at all, and neither did anyone else in my family.
Yeah.
Although it's pretty common, actually. So for that first COVID-19, it was about roughly like half of the people had it. So
and some haven't gotten it back yet, which is
yeah,
crazy.
it's one of the sad things that we can talk about later if anyone's interested about like the sort of the sad part about losing your sense of smell and how difficult that can be in your life. And
all right, so you guys have about 20 seconds left. Which sense was more affected by COVID-19? Gamble your points based on confidence. I forgot to mention you are on Ask a Scientist Gaming Honor Code. Don't Google it. Don't chat GPT it. Just answer. Yeah, it's just a matter of pride based on what you know or what your best intuition is or what you know about Adam and how he writes test questions. Whatever meta information you may need to answer this, feel free to put your answer in now. You have about 5 seconds left. I've given this spiel a few times before, so if you couldn't tell. All right. Adam, what is the answer? Which was more effective?
The answer is a sense of smell. It would have been funny if it was taste, if a smell guy came and brought a bunch of taste answers.
Exactly. Just belittle your own. So meta information was right on that one. I didn't even think that through.
It is. And it's one of the things that is sort of a misconception about the field is that when you're talking about sort of flavor and how you sort of interact with food, the vast majority of that is actually through your sense of smell, not through your sense of taste. Mm-hmm. And so if you're thinking about taste, you're thinking about, like, is this thing sweet? Is it salty? Is it bitter? Like those sort of ones. And everything else is your olfactory system. Mm-hmm. And so that is the one. And so it did influence your olfactory system. And so the original question was...
Can you talk about how COVID affected the sense of smell? Well, let me start with, like, when those first studies came out, when they were like, oh, people are losing their sense of smell. And like my brain immediately was like, holy shit, that's neurological. Like I was terrified. And it's like, and it turned out to be true. So if you could elaborate on that, like how does it do it, and then what are the implications of that, or potential implications?
So it's interesting, when that came out, people were like, are you going to study this? And before we were even allowed back in the lab, someone had already solved it. So it was actually a lot more straightforward than like you would have thought. So in the olfactory epithelium, so if you imagine that's where your neurons have receptors, that's where it's going to be the first level of transduction, which is sort of the passage of information from the sort of the odor, and then changing that into a chemical signal. And so that is sort of the first stage. And there's 3 different types of neurons in that area in the epithelium. So there are the sensory neurons that have the receptors. Those are going to transduce the information from an odor to electrical signal. There are supporting cells, which basically like protect and sort of like help provide metabolic support and sort of like support the neuron's ability to survive, sort of like glial cells in there. And then there are these basal cells, which are basically stem cells, which allow your olfactory system to sort of recover. And so the way that COVID-19 worked is it came in through your olfactory system and it binded to these angiotensin II receptors, got into your supporting cells, and killed them. So it didn't actually affect the neurons at all.
Wow.
But because the supporting cells were dead, your neurons couldn't survive anymore. And then the extent of which you lost COVID for a long time, or had to do with how it affected those stem cell populations. So those people who lost their sense of smell and got it back, it wasn't significant enough to sort of decrease those stem cells, and they sort of recovered after you got better. And ones who have permanent loss, that's why.
Wow.
And so
so it's the supporting cells that got damaged.
The supporting cells, which is what got damaged.
Yeah. No, that's pretty incredible. I mean, so how much do you know about like long COVID and the implications on that? Because it's been like those are systemic problems. So is it just destroying cells all over the body in particular weird ways?
No, it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like it's mostly just, I mean, as far as I know, it's not like, my central area expertise, it's, as far as I know, no, it's just that it has to do with the sort of loss of of your ability to sort of recover your olfactory system. And then you just have your smell loss, and that's what it's sort of limited to. It doesn't go past that. It's just taking out your olfactory system. But you're right, Ken, that if you lose your sense of smell in general, like it's a really bad thing, because your sense of smell is sort of a good early warning system for something going wrong. So anyone who's listening, if you start to not be able to smell things, then you should go to the doctor, because it's a good predictor of neurological problems.
So let's feed the hypochondriacs. What could that mean if they have no sense of smell? What it could be COVID. It could be
nothing, right? Like it could be nothing. But there's a strong.
We're going to strike fear in the hearts of the audience.
There is a strong correlation between losing your sense of smell and things like Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's and neurological disorders and Lewy body's disease, and even, this is going to be the scariest one, okay? But there's a positive correlation between losing your sense of smell and like dying within 5 years. And so, of course, if you're correlated with all those diseases, then maybe it's just that, right? I'm not trying to strike fear in everybody, but it is a more important sense like that. And there's a big sort of push in the field to make an olfactory test part of your normal checkup.
Wow.
Because, yeah, go ahead.
So is that a signal of like neurodegeneration, or what do they lean towards?
Yeah, I think that's sort of the idea, is that it's sort of like a early warning system, because it's really sensitive, and so there's something going wrong with your brain, and then maybe it's sort of affecting the olfactory system first, and then you could know maybe a year before you get some neurological problem because of this sort of sense of smell. It could be like just an early warning system for it.
All right, Oslo Fan Club redeemed Take a Drink. So, Adam, cheers. Seems like the game's going pretty well. Oslo, hopefully you have a drink in hand. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, Oslo.
Green screen on the Stella Artois bottle.
That's awesome.
That's fun. Yeah, so those of you that are curious what we're drinking tonight, we're keeping it light tonight. No bourbon this week. We're doing the Stella Artois, just the standard drink. Just a lager beer. Relatively gentle. I don't know what the percent alcohol is. Somewhere on here. No idea, but yeah, much lighter than the bourbon we had 2 weeks ago. So thank you for that, Adam. I've really Makes my Thursdays much better. So I appreciate you thinking of
My pleasure.
everyone involved. Cuddle Puppy has a follow-up. There's also a correlation between your heart stopping and dying. True. Thank you,
Good, Cuddle Puppy. You're exactly right. That's what I meant to say. That's why I didn't want to overthink. You're 100% right.
Yeah, heart stopping is usually a good indicator that you will die. I like it. All right, Witted has a follow-up on that. Could you replace the damaged cells with for people with long COVID?
That's a great question. Theoretically, yes, but like no one knows how to do that yet. And so if you could sort of sort of stimulate the growth of those stem cells in some way, and that's a possibility. But right now, it's one of the really sad parts about olfaction, and one of the things that sort of drives my wanting to know more about sort of the basic research of your sense of smell, is that the only thing that we really have right now, if you are sort of suffering from olfactory disorders, is something called smell training, and that basically comes down to, here's some strong smelling odors, just keep smelling them until, and hopefully it comes back. And on one hand, you're like, okay, well that could work. On the other hand, to be negative for a second, it's sort of the equivalent of, you've gone blind. Let me shine a bright light in your eyes and see if your vision comes back. And so, I think there's more. Really, there's more, and that's what I sort of drives me and my research to try to understand more of this basic research, because you need to understand how the system works if you want to fix it, right? You can't just bang around.
I mean, so the thought behind that would be that you can strengthen those neural pathways and you'll get better signaling. Is that it assumes a certain mechanism for destruction, right? And you're trying to address that mechanism, or how?
Yeah, that's the idea. Just sort of you stimulating sort of what's there, and maybe you can sort of drive that extra activity in that area. And there's some evidence that can help, but in the meantime, it can't hurt, and so it's sort of it's
zero risk.
Yeah, zero risk. So why don't you just do that? And so anyone who did, sure, go ahead and do it.
Might as
but
well.
it's also, I wish there was something better.
Unironically, I heard essential oils are good for this olfactory retraining.
Yeah, that's what people use a lot, is the sort of essential oils, or like really strong smelling stuff. And the essential oils are good because they're usually a lot stronger than the most of the odors in general, because they're sort of concentrated. And then you can sort of do that. So yeah, 100%. Whoever that was, that you're right.
Reese's Pieces, thank you for the comment. All right, FC Lindsay, as a previous zoology major, do you have a favorite animal? Is it related to your current research?
I do have a favorite animal. It is not related to my current research. It is an indigo hamlet. Is my favorite animal.
Indigo hamlet.
Yeah, and so it's a fish, a coral reef fish, that is I think it's sort of a pretty fish. It is a Caribbean fish, and it's cool because these hamlets are hermaphroditic, and so they can produce.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the fish.
That is the fish. So those are my, I really like that one. Otherwise, I have a real soft space in my heart for the butterfly fish that I studied in one. So a lot of butterfly fish, you think about like the pretty yellow fish. There are a lot in coral reef fish, aquariums. Those are also really strong in my heart. So mostly fish, like I said, it is something that I do genuinely love, and so those are my favorites. And it's good to talk to another zoology major. That was my PhD actually is in zoology, not in neuroscience, is what people think.
I mean, so following up on that, so you had in terms of the major, so you had a unique path. You went from biology to a postdoc experience in biology as well, but then you're in a psychology department affiliated with the neurosciences program. And so there's this blurry line between biology and psychology. And how'd you end up in psychology rather than biology? What's the, how does that outcome happen?
It's sort of an interesting question, and not one that I have a really great answer to, honestly, because I'm really in like the program of neuroscience, and so it's sort of like where the home department is.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of split between biology and psychology and the College of Medicine, and my research does sort of fit because it's very behavior heavy and very psychophysics, which is sort of like controlled behavior in a certain way. So it fits really well, but I think I could have also easily ended up in a biology department.
Yeah.
Me too.
So where do you pull students from then, typically? Grad or undergrad?
So for I need a bomb. For graduate programs, we get all our students from the from the neuroscience department, so they're all neuroscience grad students. And so they apply to the program, and then they join the setup. So that is the grad students. For undergrads, I pull from all those ones. So I have biology undergrads, I have psychology undergrads. So it really depends, and usually they're like neuroscience majors, but they're not always too. So.
Looks like our path is blocked.
All right, so yeah, if you guys have any questions, so we're about 40 minutes into the stream. Our guest today is Dr. Adam Dewan. He's an expert in sensory perception and neurobiology of sensing, and particularly olfactory sensing, so the sense of smell and where that comes from and how it maps on the brain and how you process the signals that come into your nose. If you guys have any questions, throw those in chat while he plays a little bit of Skylander. Fun setup. He has a whole lot of characters he can use. I love that you can switch characters if you're dying.
Yes, it's sort of the key to this whole thing. You can switch characters, you can play, and then you can play as the bad guys too, and they can't die. So you just when they die, you switch back to the main character. So it is nice that way, and it was good. It was a good game to play with the kids too, because then when they were just learning how to play and stuff like that, it was good.
Yeah, it's pretty forgiving on that.
Yes,
that's nice. Oslo Fan Club has a question. What do you think it's like to be a mouse in the world? Based on what you know about mouse sensory systems, how do you imagine they experience the world?
Oh, wow.
That is...
Oslo Fan Club, that is a good, intense question. Wow. I don't know. It's sort of like there's this theory in like sort of behavior called the Umwelt, which is like the animal's experience of that environment and how it experiences it differently than other people, and that's sort of the basis of your question, Oslo Fan. And so like, it's a great question, and I don't know how I would experience it because their sense of smell is so heightened compared to their visual system, and we live so much like through the visual aspects of our life that. I don't know what it'd be like, and also not only that, right? But the fact that there's such a prey species to like literally everything, that like literally everything's trying to eat them all the time. I don't even know
just like,
what that would be like.
I don't want to die. I don't want to die. That's their existence. Well, that smells like death. Let's go somewhere else.
So it's a great question. Which characters again?
I mean, that's such a like, I don't know, a epistemological question too, like what it is to perceive the world. And I've wrestled with this too, like, so I'm a photochemist, right? And I know what 532 nanometer light looks like. I know what the wavelength is, but that doesn't account for the neural pathway that processes that information. And is green equal to all people? And like, what does that mean when it actually gets inside the network? And the answer is we don't fully understand. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And then they're different species. One of the ones that I like to show the students are like, we think about, we have 3 cone photoreceptors, and that's sort of how we see the world, with different colors, with a red, a green, and a blue. But like butterflies and moths sometimes have like 16 of them.
Yeah.
Right? So like you're like, what are they seeing? Right?
Glorious.
Right? It is glorious. Like,
see the nuance.
What are the cell things? And like looking at all those like infrared. My favorite is like if you look at like flowers under infrared, and they this like boring yellow flower, and in fact it has all this like beautiful patterns that we can't see, and we just think it's a boring yellow flower. But then like butterflies are enjoying it on like a completely different level because there's all this extra patterns and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it is a wild thing. It's a great question.
Of the most harmless, well, seemingly harmless things you could do with genetic engineering, I'm probably most excited about that. Like just add a couple more receptors, right? Experience, because there are people that have a 4th color receptor, right? And it's predominantly in females, and they see more shades of tan, and like they probably get selected for, I don't know, graphic design and things like that because their skill set lends it to that. But yeah, if you could just add a sequence and all of a sudden there's UV, there's IR, that would be something else.
That would be really cool, right?
It'd probably be a nightmare for like a week until you get used to it. So you just like tripping balls all day.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
Why is the wall melting? Well, you just hadn't seen that before. All right. FC Lindsay, is there a determining factor of what type or species of mice you use in research?
Oh, that's a great question. No, not really. I mean, there are all the mice are based on one species, Mus musculus, and so like that is the main one that we use. And there's different strains, and those strains are based primarily on just how to best describe it? It's sort of like consistency's sake. Other people are using the same ones. We sort of all look at the same ones, and so it tends to be that. And we use a lot of genetic mutations in the lab, which is why we use mice, right? We sort of have that advantage, and so those tend to be on specific backgrounds as well. So it's something that's important to consider, and that's why when you run behavior experiments, it's not you sort of running experiments that have litter mates, sort of like siblings that have the mutation and siblings that don't have the mutation that grew up with the same mom. So you can sort of eliminate those sort of factors to make sure you're studying something real. So it sort of try to minimize that, but it's a great question, and it is something that you need to consider when you're running these experiments to make sure that you sort of have a good picture of what's happening in the brain, not just what's specific to the strain.
All right, frostbite. If olfaction is off the table, what other sensory system would you be interested in studying?
Oh, great question. I've never thought of about that before. I mean, I think I have pretty broad interest, so I think a lot of them would be pretty interesting. The thing that, I mean, I'm gonna PhD your question by not completely answering it, but like the thing I love about the olfactory system is like how little is known about it, which allows me to sort of really stretch my wings and answer these really interesting questions where that's not necessarily true for other systems. So, but that being said, I think that there are really interesting questions in all of these sensory systems, right? And the one that'd be the most similar would be switching to taste and doing that. But I don't know. I think that vision must have been an amazing one to study. And right now it's like so well known, and I don't know enough to know like the intricacies of what is unknown about it. But it would be a very cool one to study, and it would be amazing to switch to that from olfaction because it'd be easy to show the animal a picture of something rather than having to deal with controlling the bulk flow of volatile odors as the chemicals as they go through the air. And just like be able to shine light would be like a real amazing transition. So I think I would choose that just for the ease of the stimulus delivery, which is a real problem in olfaction.
Yeah, controlling for that, like a gust of wind has screwed up your research.
We spend so much time on that. Like literally, there's like an area of the lab that we just like, not an area, not a location, but like a branch of the lab that works on just that question. Because it's so difficult to do. And if you want to get consistent behavior, you're talking about, being able to ask a consistent question. And if your question is not consistent, then you're not going to get a consistent answer. And so we spend a lot of time working on that. And there is a big chunk in the lab that didn't get him. That sort of, I got him, okay. And that sort of works on that that particular question because it's so difficult. So, yeah.
It's fair. So senses, I mean, we have sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch. Is that everything?
I mean, if it depends on how far you want to go in terms of like proprioception and like your ability to sense your muscles, your body, and then also if you're going to leave the humans and talk about electroreception and sharks and stuff like that.
That's intriguing.
So, like, it depends on where you want to go with it.
Yeah, birds, magnetoreception.
Yep, and magnetoreception too. Good, I forgot about that.
That's really fun. I mean, so of those on humans, like the sense of touch is so delocalized, right? Is that, again, this is outside of your expertise, but is it the same mechanism everywhere on the body? Is it the same type of reception and processing? Does it change?
It is. I mean, again, it's sort of like bringing up the biology and remembering that stuff. But yeah, it's sort of the same. There's a certain type of receptors that are all over the body. There's a bunch of different ones. There are these like hairless ones that are on your hairless skin on your hand. And so there's ones, that's why your fingers are so sensitive to feeling touches. And so there's a bunch of different kinds. I can remember 5, 6 different types of receptors that do that, and that's not including like pain receptors. And so it's basically the same sort of thing. There's sort of like free nerve endings with some sort of specialized like ending to it that sort of detects the pressure and pain and those things. And then it depends on like their distribution and their amounts, right?
Yeah,
That's why you're more sensitive, like your elbow and stuff like that. You can't, you're not as sensitive at.
And so those fall under the umbrella of touch, and they're, okay, that makes sense. All right, Cuddle Puppy lightening it up. Scientifically speaking, if they smelt it, have they dealt it?
That's the first one. We got our first fart joke.
And from the person that asked about fart jokes.
Sorry, we should give that one up.
Based on your scientific expertise, thank you, Cuddle Puppy.
Yeah.
If they smelt it, have they dealt it? Oh, that's more of a social science question. That's a social dynamic.
That's funny.
All right, Witted Chimp, do you think smell is going to be part of virtual reality systems?
Oh, great question. I think that there are going to be many people who work really, really hard at trying to do this. So I can give you the positive perspective, or I can give you the negative perspective on that, right? So the positive perspective of it is that it would make virtual reality that much more, sort of impactful and allow you to sort of feel that. And there are researchers who are working on things. There was a, what would you call a thing, an exhibition at a museum? That's the word I was looking for. Sort of a museum exhibition that sort of looked at this and had a virtual reality system where you could try to be a tree. And so it happened in somewhere in England. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Where you would watch this virtual reality system and you would start underground and you would smell these smells of like sort of dirt and sort of like musty, sort of like moistness, and then you would sort of grow up as a tree, and then you sort of come up and you look like you're growing up, and then you sort of exposed to the leaves and branches and like sort of smells of trees, and then eventually, like, I don't know why the person who designed this came up with this, but then eventually like the tree burns down and you smell like fire and stuff like that. And so apparently it was really successful and people thought it was very cool. And so like it really depends on your what you expect the virtual reality system to do. So if it's very limited, if you want something that just sort of reminds you of something but doesn't smell exactly like it, then it is something that I think will definitely be integrated. The difficulty of it, the negative perspective on it, is that odor is really hard to sort of match. That you really need like the actual stimulus to deliver it, because most chemical stimuli, if you think of like coffee or something like that, which is if you just get coffee beans and that smell, if you wanted to recreate it with sort of individual chemicals, you might be talking about hundreds of different things mixed together in a specific combination. So you need natural things of it to pull it off, and then each one has to have a way to deliver it independently. So now you're talking about just like a room of odors that are connected now to your VR system, and you're just attached to hoses and then coming into it. So like that, right? Like that's going to be also incredibly challenging, and how quickly they run out, because every odor has a volatility, which is basically like how quickly it goes from a liquid phase into sort of a gas phase, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's going to run out as well. And so as that runs out, it's going to change the smell of it, right? So now you have to deal with that as well, as you're like, oh, my scent cartridge for, I don't know, coffee is running out. Now I barely can smell the coffee and stuff like that. So it's the negative view is it's going to be very difficult if you have high expectations. If you want sort of like very simplistic additions to it, then it is definitely possible and probably coming soon.
Yeah, so simple smells, doable. Real perception smells, unlikely. All right. D Gaines wants to know, goat olfactory bulb. What is the maybe your favorite olfactory bulb, or that's yours?
No, okay. Thanks. Great question. Because when I read that, I was thinking like a goat's olfactory bulb.
Yeah, good point.
So that's the and I should know, like my that's all my 10-year-old says. It's like everything is goated all of the time. It's like it's goated. So like that should have been like the first thing I thought of.
At least every semester after student reviews, I have to Google a phrase they use in my reviews. Ken is the goat. I'm like, goat?
Is that good?
Yeah. Did I
That's
win?
good, right?
Am I with it, kids?
That's funny.
But anyway, favorite olfactory bulb.
Favorite olfactory bulb. That's a great question.
Doesn't have to be human-based.
Yeah, so like they're very different, right? They're really different, each olfactory bulb. So a mouse is obviously the one that I use all of the time, and so that's the one that we have these genetic mutations for, and you can see sort of like beautiful projections. And so, like, if you were to look at glomeruli projecting onto the sensory neurons projecting onto glomeruli, it's beautiful. Like, I think it's beautiful. Like, sort of seeing that axon convergence to a specific spot, it's sort of a really beautiful thing. So that would be my favorite. But in terms of like the structure, they look really different. Like, our human olfactory bulbs look like little worms. And so a mouse is sort of like a ball. It's sort of like the bulb, and but humans are worms. There was one that, again, a really geeky thing to say, but when I worked in fish, when I had to go to an aquarium wholesaler to get my my fish. And so what I would go there sometimes is go to the aquarium wholesaler to get the fish, and then if they didn't have the species I was working on, then I wasn't doing experiments that day, right? And so the guy who ran it sort of liked research, and so he would give me fish that were dying.
Huh.
And that were like going to be dead or were already dead, and I would save their brains and sort of look at them and just do that for that day. And so like I have a bunch in my office, but there was one species in particular that was like a rock mover wrasse, I think, had really like these interesting like sort of ridges in its olfactory bulb that were sort of weird. And so that one also like strikes with me as my favorite. So I didn't answer your question, I gave you 3, but the mouse one I guess would be the coolest because you can sort of see, we can use genetic mutations to be able to see the connections, and they're just like, I don't know, I could look at them all day, they're just beautiful. And it's sort of like the central aspect of the question, like why is this organized this way? Why is it like this? It's like sort of like unlimited questions that sort of relate to it.
That's awesome. Going into the night, you probably didn't expect what's your favorite olfactory bulb, but here we are.
I'm here to go with the flow, whatever happens.
Oslo wants to know, what does an aardvark's olfactory bulb look like?
I don't know the question to that. I've never seen an aardvark's olfactory bulb. It probably looks something similar to it, because if you think about what an aardvark looks like, it sort of has just like a generic like dog and, you know, like sort of shape to it, I think. Isn't that right, what an aardvark has to it? I don't...
Yeah,
Google it.
That would something specific about an aardvark. Do they have a
it's got sort of a long and sort of a long nose. Yeah, maybe it's longer. It's a great question. I was forgetting how long their nose is. So maybe it is longer.
Animal, yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna look at that because that's sort of a cool question that I don't know the answer to, and I will. Interesting.
Is there anything?
Do you have anything about it? Oh, it looks sort of
brain.
regular. That's it. It looks sort of. Oh, it's an elephant shrew. So.
Close, yeah, nothing.
You're showing a lot of promise, kid. I like that.
Hire a stock image. No, that's not
if you
it.
really want to stay ahead of the game,
Just long nose. It's gonna be weird. Right?
That's my guess. I don't know, but like it could be really cool.
All right. FC Lindsay wants to know, how much do fish really use olfaction? Would the ridges in that fish's olfactory bulb assume it uses it more?
Oh, absolutely, Lindsay. Great question. I'm not sure I know the answer to the second part of the question. Fish use their olfactory system a lot. It is a complicated to distinguish between olfaction and their sense of taste, because both of these things are traveling through liquid, right? And normally, and for us, we think about, you know, taste is liquid-based and odor is sort of air-based. And so there's some push with fish researchers to sort of just call it a chemosensory sense, and so they're sort of together. But there are different receptors, and if you sort of look for the genetic relationship of other ones, it is that you can sort of distinguish them. But they use it a lot. I mean, the best example is like, you know, the salmon who finds the stream that they were in using their olfactory system, and so that's an example where they use it a lot. They also use it in like the pheromones and stuff like that. So fish use it a lot, and it's a great question about whether it's ridged like that. Does that mean that they use it more? Maybe it could mean the more, you know, sort of surface area to allow you to have more glomeruli, which is sort of the first processing unit in the brain of the olfactory bulb. Or maybe, like I'm just sort of guessing at things, or maybe it's just based on the shape of their head, right? And then so it's not actually like that. It's just another great question that I'm not sure I have the.
I mean, so it sounds like it's literally ridges, like a literally high surface area. It's bumpy surface. I mean, so that's intriguing to me, because that becomes a like fluid dynamics problem, like a mass transport problem. Do you collaborate with engineers, or does the community in general modeling this in terms of, you know, flow dynamics and resilience time on interfaces, all that stuff?
It's a great question, and I wish we did more. I think it's sort of like I wish we did more, and it's one of the things that is I don't know if frustrating is the right word, but like I wish we were farther along because a lot of fields have to solve the same sort of difficulties that we have to solve in olfaction, and there are like knowledge-based information that we don't really have like consistent access to because they sort of look at things a different way. But the idea of like a chemical and becoming a liquid chemical becoming a gas and sort of that sort of stretches lots of different fields. And olfaction is in its heart like some version of it is chemistry. Right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I wish I knew more about that stuff, and like, I wish that we had sort of a more overarching look at these different sort of perspectives, and I think that that's where we need to go. And so, I find myself reading more and more chemistry sometimes, and sometimes reading more and stuff, and just thinking, how did I get here? Sometimes, but I think it is a great question, and it is exactly where like we need to get more too.
Yeah, no, that's very, very cool. All right, brains are rad. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. First time chat. Click the follow button if you're not following. You'll get notifications about future guests. Also, you'll help our numbers go up. We want visibility and people to see us. So, yeah, click the follow button. Austin, thank you for the follow. Thank you for joining us. If you have questions, throw them in the chat. Austin says, "Hi, Adam." This might be somebody you know.
Hi, Austin. My technician is Austin, so that could be Austin. Thanks for stopping by. It's good to hear.
Might be that Austin. All right. Brains are rad. If you had unlimited budget, what animal species would you study? Whether it be related to sense and perception or something else?
That's a great question. I think I could go two ways in that thing. I think what I would honestly do, if I'm just going to try to be like as honest as possible, I think what I would do is I would start working on non-model species. Because there are so many interesting things that like evolution has solved that you could sort of look at and look at this aardvark or look at this species that has really great senses of smell or something like that and understand what that does and sort of have these natural based experiments and sort of look at that. So I think that that's what I would do because I don't work on those ones because it's hard sometimes to get funding on these non-model species.
Yeah.
But I think I would just start choosing just interesting questions and interesting species that have to solve life in interesting ways.
I'll do a follow-up. One of our standard questions we like to ask is unlimited budget, no moral qualms. What research study would you do? I mean, we could strap Cuddle Puppy down and fart in their face for hours, see how that goes. But
I wouldn't do that to Cuddle Puppy. I wouldn't do that to Cuddle Puppy. Unlimited budget. I think that the thing that is where I would go with that is to sort of be able to look at, I think, more brain regions simultaneously. And so you imagine you can look at not just one, but record from lots of different regions at the same time and be able to get sort of a more global perspective of how the brain works. Because in general neuroscience, that's what we're spending a lot of time doing is just like looking at one region, trying to understand it, but it's not, it's like in a vacuum. It's like trying to only study the spark plug of a car. Like you only can understand so much about what this thing does until you have to, I don't even know why I was doing that. I was just hitting him in the hand for no reason.
seemed reasonable. That was the goal.
I was like spacing out and just being, okay, he doesn't like it, I'll just keep doing it.
Yeah.
See if I can remember what to do with this thing.
It's interesting you mentioned that because Justin talked about that as well, and one of his big things is like you try to treat neurons individually and map neurons individually, but he's thinking, there's electromagnetic fields that happen in regions and that affects the overall processing, and you want to take that holistic picture as related to sensory processes, which, I mean, it seems like a lot of people are converging on that, which is cool.
Yeah, and another thing that's really cool about Justin's research too is sort of like looking at and human research in general. So you could look big picture stuff, and we're always so focused on like tiny little stuff.
So no moral qualms. Are you going to touch that one at all?
I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't think I have the personality to be able to pull that off, honestly. I mean, like I never wanted to be a doctor. Like my sister's a doctor. I never wanted to be a doctor because I don't know if I could ever handle it if like I had a patient and it died and stuff like that. So I'm not sure I have the right personality to be able to just be like, yeah, I'm just going to do whatever and sort of study it. So, but it would be interesting to sort of, look at some questions in humans, but not to that level. It just sort of like do more of give them more odors. Make them smell more things and understand, not anything that's like more so than just irritating, I guess. Sort of thing. So
that's fair. So cuddle puppy, you're safe for now.
you're safe. We don't know the smell of farts. We don't have it. We don't have the odor of farts.
It's the elevator experiment. I like it. Eli Williams has redeemed Take a Drink. Adam, cheers. Hopefully you guys have a drink in hand. Cheers. We're drinking some Stella Artois tonight. Yeah, hang out, talk some science, drink some alcohol, have a good time. Playing some Skylanders. How's it going, by the way?
Good. I look like I know what I'm doing. I think at least a little bit. If the kids watch it, they're not going to be embarrassed by Dad playing the game. That was the whole goal.
That's the goal tonight.
Is make sure the kids aren't like, oh my God, Dad, we have to practice all week.
But here's the thing: if they're going to talk trash, just bust out Super Tecmo Bowl and show them what gaming is.
Ugh.
Bring out the old school.
I don't know. The oldest one now is getting pretty good at Madden. So like, I don't know if I'm getting old enough now that I'm sort of on the decline and he's on the upswing, and so it could switch sometime soon. He's right at that 13, like that magical teenage years where it starts, and so it could switch soon.
Yeah, you'll notice there's not a lot of professional gamers over the age of 25. Like it is a dexterous skill, right? You start to degenerate over time. Your response time goes down. So yeah, kids are going to beat us, unfortunately. Macaroon Granola has redeemed request a factoid. Do you have a knowledge bomb you would like to drop on the audience?
Which ones haven't I used? Okay, here's one that I have that I found before I came here that was really interesting. So it's like your olfactory ability decreases by 82% per decade between the ages of 57 and 85 for most people.
Jeez.
So for a lot of people, for like 25% of the population that suffers from olfactory disorders, it will drop 82% per decade on that time. So not for everybody. Some people will be fine and have normal, good smelling as they go older, but that's sort of a dramatic decline.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, so this leads to like grandma over seasoning food. Things
Exactly,
like that, right?
exactly.
That
sort of thing. And that's what I had thought. So like very naively, when I started studying olfaction, I sort of imagined that, like, what would it be like to lose your sense of smell? And I am like, okay, well, if I lost my sense of smell, I'd be eating tofu all day. Like, I'd be like just perfectly healthy stuff all the time. And then like
nutrition pellet,
right? Like, exactly. And you'd be like, that's what I'm doing. I'm just doing the most nutritious thing possible, and I'm just going to do that.
Yeah.
And so, but when I had the pleasure of talking to someone who runs the Fifth Sense, which is sort of like Britain's anosmic group, which basically people who have lost their sense of smell, and like talk to him about what it's like since he lost his sense of smell. And he's like, that's not what happens at all. In fact, people do the exact opposite of that. They oversalt things and they eat really more unhealthily. I'm exaggerating in terms of like everybody does different things, but like the vast majority of people are, according to him, the majority of people are going to sort of oversalt because they miss that flavor so much that they're trying to recapture it with too much salt, with too much fat to sort of get some of that back. So that's not what I was expecting. And it is sort of surprising, I think.
Yeah. All right. So we're an hour in. Should we do another prediction?
Yes. Oh, okay. I was going to say another game. We can also do another game.
It's up to you. What do you want to do?
Yeah, we can do another game. We can do a prediction. Anything you want to do.
Let's put up a prediction and then we'll pick another game. So think about which one. Yeah, that's yours. Okay. What do you want to do? We kind of did that one already.
Kind of did that first one. We kind of did that one.
Go ahead, say it.
One of those two. Yeah, one of those. The next two.
Let's go.
Let's go with this one. We'll save the other one for later.
You've always been my guy in the sky.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to put up a prediction. If those of you that aren't familiar, we ask science questions on the stream. We're going to put up a question that has two answer options, and you're going to be able to predict which answer is correct. Ask Scientist Gaming Honor Code. You can't look up via Google. Instead, just answer based on what you know about the world. And so the prediction is up. All chemicals smell, yes or no? So pretty straightforward question. All chemicals smell. All chemicals can be perceived via smell, yes or no? All right, so click that predict button. Gamble as many internet points as you want. They're only useful for this channel. You can make us drink. You can make us give you guys a factoid. So answer your question. So what do you want to switch to?
Any one of those games that we did before. Let's try it. I'm trying to embarrass myself a little bit more than
Go to
I have to do.
Tecmo Bowl. Do you want to pause or anything before?
I don't care. We can just switch.
Let's just switch.
Yeah.
All right. switch to that. Let's do, I mean, Tecmo Bowl. You talked about it.
I know.
Let's do it.
I haven't played this game since I was 13, I think.
All right.
So, like, this could be rough. I apologize already in advance.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this is Super Tecmo Bowl. This is the sequel to Tecmo Bowl. Tecmo Bowl was the big early one for the NES. That one was huge. And then this one upped the game. It bumped from, what was it, like 7 players to, I think this is 11, right?
I think so. And wasn't the Super Tecmo Bowl had all the teams, or did Tecmo Bowl also have all the teams?
Oh, man. And Tecmo Bowl has 15 or so teams. I don't know what I think this has more for sure.
This brings me back so much.
You ready for this?
I'm ready. I wish I could remember. The nostalgia is really strong.
Oh, man. All right, you guys have about 20 seconds left on all chemicals smell, yes or no.
How does it determine what team I am? Oh, on the Eagles, it knew.
What? Did you click start? Yeah, click start.
Oh, okay. No, the game just happened. I don't know. I pushed game start. Is that not?
Team control. Try
Team
that.
control? Okay,
I honestly don't know Super.
Okay, yeah, oh yeah, that's right. You picked the man of who you wanted, because I didn't pick anybody and we just started playing the game. Okay, I want to be...
Frostbite. I'm so ready for this question. Well, Oslo, Frostbite, I can smell your excitement from here. 4D Twitch chat. Hope you have all the sensory tanks in the back of the room.
Yes. I think...
Did it simulate the game?
I think I switched to man, so it simulates all the ones besides my game, I think, is what happens. I don't remember. Is that true?
I don't know. I hope
Nope, it didn't happen. So team control, I have mine as man, right? So that's my team. So I might have to schedule Jets versus Tampa Bay, Philadelphia versus Green Bay. Reset. Yes. Yes. Okay, so
Anyone knows Super Tecmo Bowl?
Okay, let's make sure that I have team control. No, I lost my team control. Okay, so team control is man. And then now I think that... Come on. No. Might have to pick another game.
Oh, no. We can do original Tecmo Bowl. I know for sure how to do that one.
Okay.
If you want to try the original.
I wish I could remember how to... Like, it's so nostalgic. Like, I remember all this stuff, but I don't remember... Lions. Game start. Because I think you have to go through, like, it would tell you what happened in all the games besides the one you're playing.
It doesn't give you a one-off?
I guess it's sort of like you had to play all these ones. Because I remember you'd sometimes be able to play, like, 2 different teams.
Man, look at that. The original manual.
That's wild.
Back when games had manuals and you didn't have to go to a web page. Let's reset. What did you pick? So it gives you the option of preseason, season game, Pro Bowl.
Oh, I maybe picked a season. I did a whole season instead of just a preseason game. Is probably what I should have done.
Or Pro Bowl.
We're gonna be here all night. We're gonna play a whole season together.
I told you guys, mediocre gameplay. Here we are.
Okay, here we go. Man versus computer. Okay,
and we then, we read the manual to figure this out. Ladies
I need to play. I'm gonna play San Diego because thanks.
All right, Adam. So all chemicals smell, yes or no?
Oh, the answer to the question?
Yep.
They do not all smell. There are many chemicals who don't have a smell, at least to us. And so the best example of that is methane is sort of the ones. And that's why they put, mercaptan into it and sort of give that rotten egg smell because it doesn't have a smell and allows you to... I'm going to return first. Let's play offense first. And then to do that. So not all chemicals smell, but it could also be because we don't have the olfactory receptors to be able to detect those odors.
Oh, that's interesting. Do you know of a species that smells methane?
I do not. We can smell meth. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know I don't know of a species that can smell.
Yeah, because sulfur, there was an evolutionary advantage, right? That was rotting various whatever things, right? Don't eat the stuff that smells like sulfur, presumably. But yeah, methane, that's... Yeah.
So I would imagine, I think the possibility is higher. I've never tested mice to see if they can smell it. I mean, because I don't, I'm not sure I want methane in the lab. The stuff there. Right? All of a sudden, I collect or something like that. What happened? I was trying to test whether I can answer your, the biggest mistake I've ever had in the lab. I burnt it down after trying to figure out.
You can test if it's there with a lighter. It's fine. It'll all work out.
I forgot how to throw it. Oh, there it is. That's right.
Yep, it's the one in the arrow.
Oh, no!
Ouch.
I did. Okay.
Man, I like that. So I have a story related to that, the methane, and they add a sulfur reagent to it. So when I was an undergrad working on research, just St. Cloud State University, middle of nowhere, Minnesota, but I was working on thiol functionalized quantum dots, so these inorganic solids with thiols on the outside. And I was working with thiols, and I was doing it all in the fume hood, and that was fine. But it turned out there was a fire alarm that went off or something, an emergency, and they evacuated the building. And it turns out what ended up happening is the fume hood exhaust that went up the roof, the wind was just right to like shift it towards the intake of the building.
Oh, no.
And so as soon as they smell a sulfur, they assume there's a methane leak somewhere. And so they evacuated the building for safety reasons, assuming it was going to explode. And so, yeah, because of my research, they evacuated the building.
That is awesome. Like, it's an awesome story. It's not awesome that it happened. It's an awesome story.
I mean, zero regrets. I did everything right. It was just the structure of the building. It was an old building. The fume hoods were not functionalized correctly. So, yeah, good.
That's funny. The one of the odors that I worked with in the postdoc is trimethylamine, and that's the odor, right, of fish that's like to go bad.
Yep, rotting fish.
And it was so volatile that we like did it, and like it was in the lab, and like it was just the tiniest bit. Oh my goodness! My wife, when I used to come home, would be like, I'd walk through the door, and she'd be like, "Go change." No, go change. Right?
Oh, man.
And then like I should test the boys on that, because they used to be little on that, and then like if she wasn't home, they would come and just like literally like come snuggle up and stuff like that. And so I wonder if they like the smell of it or something like that now.
You like train them?
Yeah, like train like that. Like, this is what Dad smells like: stinky fish.
At your funeral, your eulogy.
Yep, exactly.
I just remember how he smelled like fish.
Always smelled like fish.
Oh, all right. Man, that's fun. Yeah, so the act of smelling, the reason we don't smell methane is it doesn't bind a receptor, right?
That's
and this
the
is
theory, yeah,
shape
exactly.
limited. I mean, how flexible are those shape receptors? In human, they're presumably pretty fine-tuned, but there's nuance to it, right?
Yeah, and so there is nuance to it, but there are more broadly tuned than you would expect. So a lot of people sort of imagine that if, especially with mice, if there's 1,000 olfactory receptors, that there's a receptor for each chemical, and there's really not. Most of the chemicals are going to respond to a lot of different things depending on the concentration. And so it's really supposed to be like a combinatorial code where you get, oh no. Where you get lots of different, you need a lot of different receptors to respond to a specific thing. What happened? I just got thrown away.
Dead.
I just got destroyed on that.
Darned by a quarterback.
I don't even know who I'm playing, but I just got destroyed on that. I see, threw it out of bounds.
Nice.
But yeah, that's the theory.
That's pretty fun. All right, Cashew Chestnut, your favorite grants manager says hi.
Oh, that's nice to hear for you.
Awesome. Cheers. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for all the help.
Yeah, exactly. Feel free to ask the hard questions. You probably shouldn't reveal who you are. You could anonymously just torn Adam to shreds. You remember that time you did that thing?
Yep, she probably could.
Man, that's awesome. Austin, also my favorite. Small world. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on the stream. Adam Dewan is answering questions about olfactory sensing while playing a little bit of Super Tecmo Bowl. Nostalgia back to his youth.
Yeah.
And I apologize, I'm not keeping track of your stats.
That's something for later.
Better edit the stream info. We are playing Super Tecmo Bowl. I mean, so one of the nice things about your area of discipline is this is relevant to everyone. And so when you go like on an airplane and somebody asks you what you do, you say, I'm a professor, and then maybe you mention what you study. What's the subsequent conversation? It's like, my uncle has this problem, or like, where does that go usually?
Most of the time it's like trying to convince, like taking the time to convince them that the olfactory system is really important. Because I think a lot of people take it for granted. They think that when they interact with food, it's mostly their sense of taste, and sort of like highlighting the, like, how bad it would actually be if you did lose your sense of smell, because the initial perspective is, and it's nothing wrong with that, it's just that the perspective is that, if I didn't have my sense of smell, I wouldn't have to smell dirty diapers, and it'd be easier for us to sort of detect something. And so that is the as I get destroyed in this game. That's sort of the prevailing view, and sort of highlighting to them that if you lost your sense of smell, that people in general have this high rate of depression, and there's this huge sort of disconnect with your spouse, and all these like sort of negative things that happen, even if it's not associated with neurological, problems that are coming down the road.
So have you heard of this anecdote about women that are on birth control and then get off birth control? Their sense of smell, like their chosen mate, might not be a preference after that. Have you heard of this? And is there any truth to that?
It's a really difficult question. So yes, I've heard of it, and whether it's accurate or not is hard to know, because there are evidence sort of on multiple sides of this. The other one that it happens a lot is if a pregnant woman is more sensitive, when she's pregnant, because, think, well, when I was pregnant, that's how you throw it. I remember now.
Yeah, they threw up to everything. Right? Yeah.
For you, A is switch which one it is. So, like, whether they're sensitive, but it's hard to know. One of my, postdoctoral papers sort of demonstrated that it's the sort of the sensitivity of the receptor sort of determines how that works. But so if that is true in humans as well, then it's probably not you becoming more sensitive. You're probably just becoming more attentive to it, and it bothers you more. So you're sort of like paying attention to it more, and that's what's sort of showing in really like increased sensitivity. But that's really just a basis of like attention based.
Yeah, it's artificial.
So that could be why there's sort of evidence on both sides of this thing, is that it's because it depends on how it was tested and whether you sort of elevate that attention based thing. But that being said, we know so little about how the olfactory system works in humans that it could be true.
Kudos, by the way, for scoring at the last second. That was the last play of the half. Well done.
That was just luck, to be honest. That was just luck.
All right. JTP had a question a while ago. Sorry, it was backburnered for a little bit. Actually, take a drink. Frostbite has requested take a drink. So apologize for interrupting your game.
Nope.
Frostbite, hopefully you have a drink in hand. Cheers. Thank you for joining us on Ask Scientist Gaming. It's always a pleasure to have you guys. Your questions take us down interesting paths. We love the journey. So if you guys have questions, throw them in chat for Adam while we play some Super Tecmo Bowl. And catching him up on some questions, JTP23 FSU wants to know, why is the sense of smell considered highly connected to memory?
Oh, great question.
$1 billion question, right?
Yeah, it's sort of, you can sort of attack that question multiple different ways. The first one is that it's really closely associated with memory areas. Like the olfactory system is only like one synapse away from all of these main amygdala and hippocampus and all these sort of memory related areas. So that's probably the reason. Why that is another $1 million question that it's hard to demonstrate and like really have a clear answer to about why it's so associated with memory. But it could be just like associating specific aspects of your life with specific memories and then sort of developing that sort of ethos around it. So that's not really I don't really have a great answer to why it's considered, more so than like why it is, and then from there, yeah. Oh, I got it.
Nice.
You got it.
I love the cinematic. It really captures. It felt so real back in the day.
It did. And the things, right? It's like, I caught it again. I'm just like, but yeah.
Slow Money, thank you for the follow. Thank you for joining us on Ask a Scientist Gaming. You'll get notifications about future guests every other Wednesday night. We have somebody on. Our guest tonight is Dr. Adam Dewan. He's an expert in sensory perception, neuroscience related to sensoring, in particular the olfactory system, the sense of smell, and how that processes. And he studies that in mice as one of his focus, and how the genetics manipulates that sensory perception. So catching up on another question related to football, Oslo fan wants to know, can TBI/CTE affect sense of smell? So anyone not familiar with CTE, TBI, it's the repetitive impact brain injury that accumulates over time, particularly in football, both American and European football. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's a great question. It's a good timely question what we're playing now. Yes, it can, although I don't know of a like very specific study that I can like pull off of the top of my head right now. more so related to just the sort of impact in general as the difference. So the way your olfactory system works is you imagine like that epithelium is sort of like in the roof of your mouth. So you're gonna go in there and sort of like drill up. That would be where your epithelium is, and then it sort of sends a nerve up to your brain, which is up here, right? So you imagine it sort of like an epithelium that is connected by this little string, and then as the your brain sort of gets wiggled around, that string gets stressed, right? And if your brain gets hit hard enough, right, it will snap that, and that's why there's a significant proportion of people who are in car accidents lose their sense of smell, because you sort of imagine that your brain's going ba-boom, ba-boom like that, and sort of snapping that little.
It's literally mechanical shearing.
Yep. Yeah.
Holy
Exactly.
Shit. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so it can just instantly happen. And so the guy I was talking to that I mentioned before, from Fifth Sense, he was in he was on a bike and got hit by a car, and so he was fine, but then he lost his sense of smell just instantly because of that.
God, that's intense. Oof. All right, so the answer is yes, but it's not the CT. It's not a byproduct of the CT. It's the same thing that causes CTE, causes that damage.
Yeah, I think so. As far as I know, I mean, like I haven't seen that thing. Like that would for sure do it, but yeah.
All right. Wooded Chimp wants to know, how does nature versus nurture play into what smells we consider good versus bad?
Oh, that's a wonderful question that I've never really thought about before. And so there is this sort of like this condition. I think it's one of the things that's really interesting about the olfactory system is sort of its plasticity in things, right? Things that smell good can immediately start to seem bad. And the best example of this is sort of what people call conditioned taste aversion. Like imagine that you used to love pizza and then all of a sudden you had some specific mushroom pizza or some other kind of pizza, and you had terrible food poisoning, and now you hate that thing, right? And so originally you liked it, and so you associate these two. And so I think that part of the power of the olfactory system is sort of this association. And so that feeds exactly into, I forgot the name of the person, but that feeds exactly into
the memory, JTP.
Yeah, it feeds exactly into that sort of perspective. Is like how you grew up and what you're exposed to and what smells good and stuff like that. And it's also true for the people who like like the gefilte fish and like all those things that have like this really strong smell to it that initially people are durian fruit or stuff like that people might be like, oh goodness, but then if you grew up with that, then you might enjoy it then and sort of have that positive association with it.
So I'm curious about like the timeline of you talked about sensory like degradation over time. Is there just a known timeline where over your first year of life it's very bad, and then by your second year it starts to develop? Is there a well-known timeline?
That's a great question, and it's one of the ones that are also it's not exactly clear. People try to figure out whether like babies have innate preferences for odors and stuff like that, and it's not clear. I think for sure, like I think it's probably one of the earliest senses developed. It's really early in mice, although it's not fully like pruned and properly set up. But sort of babies a lot of times will root around the nipple and stuff like that to sort of find it. And so like probably it's pretty well developed in humans, at least enough. But sort of the connections and sort of the fine scale tuning of that probably definitely happens. And it happens in mice up until the time that they actually wean and they're like 21 days old. They're still like, it's still like sort of pruning and figuring out the exact sort of setup and this idea of the sensory neurons going to the glomeruli, and it's sort of like fine scaling that axon guidance doesn't happen until they're ready to leave the nest.
In the framework of nature versus nurture, evolutionary biology, I mean, sense of smell was key to survival, presumably in early mammalians. So I mean, there's got to be some residual, like you got to smell right away or you don't exist.
Yeah, I think that's true, and that's one of the things that people. I was like, how am I doing that? They're doing it. That people don't consider is like how well humans smell as well. And so sometimes we think about us like not smelling great. And in fact, there are certain odors that we can smell as well as like, dogs and mice most likely. And then there are other odors where we probably can't. But our sense of smell is probably better than a lot of people give it credit for.
Mm-hmm. Frostbite. Alternative title to the stream, Adam talks science while obliterating Tecmo Bowl. Kudos to you. 35.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's going to be the highlight. That comment is the highlight of the day.
Man,
because I am not embarrassing myself. The kids will be so far will be happy.
Acceptable levels of gameplay. Yeah. Do you remember what the highest score you've ever gotten in this game was?
It was like it was like 99 or something like that. Like I remember playing this game all of the time, and like being able to I'm not doing stuff like that, but doing that. But yeah, I think it was high, and then playing Reggie White, which I now can't find where he is exactly, but having Reggie White and just like sacking the guy over and over and over and over again was like.
Yeah, now I remember that in Tecmo Bowl. It's like, can you score 3 touchdowns per quarter?
Yep.
Oof. 4th down. Big
Go
call.
for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was wide open. I don't know why he threw it so far away.
I like it. All right, we got to catch up on... Lorianne requested a factoid. Lori, welcome back to the stream. Cheers. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers.
Presumably you're getting on an airplane tomorrow to come back to FSU, so look forward to crossing paths next week at the very latest. Do you have a factoid, a knowledge bomb?
Factoid. How about the fact that... which ones haven't I used? I've used some of these in my main talking. How about the fact that humans have 400 olfactory receptors. So like we have 400, mice have about 1,000 olfactory receptors. And so if you sort of look at that in comparison to other sensory systems, it's a lot, and sort of cover the whole entire world. But how about that for a fact? It's not my best one, but
no, that's good. I mean, is there do you know any of those numbers off the top of your head, like an elephant versus a dog?
A dog?
It has to be ridiculously.
No, a dog is like 800 or something like that. So don't like down to the generic numbers.
Plus or minus, yeah.
But so like dogs are like 800. Like monkeys and chimps are right around that 400 number too that we're around. And so yeah, it is. Game switch?
It's up to you. What do you want to do?
Let's do a game switch.
Mario Brothers 1, 2, or 3. Zelda.
Yeah, let's do one of those.
You got to pick. I'll pick it for you.
Let's do Legend of Zelda, because that's another one that I used to do a lot of time. I have some nostalgic of this.
So I think DW is Diana Williams, actually.
Diana Williams played this game. I'll have to talk to her. She's on.
I think she played Zelda.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember who DW
Hopefully
was.
she won't mind.
You'll use her. You got the sword already, so do you?
No, I don't have a sword. It was in here?
Oh, we might not have saved it all.
Okay. This is like, it's fun. It's so nostalgic to like go back and play these games to like...
Oh, man. So you're familiar with the concept of speedrunning. Let me check. What is the speedrun record on this game? What's the fastest you think someone has beaten Zelda?
I've not beaten this game in a day. I spent like all
At the very least, the answer's a day.
I can't believe I had that sort of like time before, but yeah, it's like spending a day running these ones. And so, but yeah, this was a really fun game, I think. And then knowing where all those like, I can't buy anything here yet. Where all these like cheats were, where you like push one of these rocks and like it like does something. It's sort of amazing how much your brain remembers these games, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's like you don't think you know this stuff, and then but like I think I even know where the first level is. Like it's up here, and then you go this way, right? Like.
All right, so Adam, what's your guess for the fastest someone has run this game?
Someone has run this game. I'm gonna guess 6 hours.
The answer is 26 minutes.
Holy, how's that even possible? I thought 6 hours was going to be fast.
No, 26 minutes is the record. I'll send you a link on the video.
Got it. I'll do it right now.
Should I put the timer up? Adam's going to do this.
I'm going. 26 minutes. Up here, go.
So I've seen some of the speed running, and they figured out a glitch where if you go back and forth on the right side of the screen fast enough, it jumps you to the left side. So if you do that over and over again, that's saving you 3 seconds every single, it's weird little stuff like that. That's what I love about speedrunning. It's scientific method applied to a rigorous, like, restricted system. Like, there's a limited number of things that can happen, and if you exploit them, you can go really, really fast. All right. Macaroon granola. Science question: does the zero gravity environment affect the sense of smell in astronauts, and how so? I understand that it affects muscles like the tongue. It affects muscles in general. Have they looked at sense of smell?
That is a great question that I don't know the answer to. I would imagine that in zero gravity, the flow of and not just zero gravity, but in the sort of atmosphere that's in either the spaceship or something like that would mean that the odors would travel differently. But I don't know the answer to that question. It's a great question. It's something that I'll have to look up when I come back that I've never thought about before. That's awesome. I will have to look it up. I don't know.
So, I mean, on a related note, I've heard anecdotes about, and I don't know how true this is, but when people first go to this the International Space Station, they will open the door for the first time when they're connecting. The waft of odor is so overwhelming that people will vomit.
Really?
And it's because it's not, I mean, it's recirculating air, right? Like it's not perfectly cleaning it, right? And so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to build up pretty bad in there. So
Thank goodness your olfactory system adapts then.
Exactly.
Just get used to it, I guess, is the key to all of our space travel. So maybe I can get some NASA money.
Exactly. I like it. All right. Oslo, thoughts on using olfactory stimuli / cues paired with gameplay to strengthen memory?
Oh, that's a good idea. I mean, there is a good
It's like learning
relationship, yeah, and sort of like to sort of associate one thing with another and sort of have positive associations, although maybe negative associations. It would be good. I think it's the only difficulty is the same one we mentioned before, is just that the number of odors that you can present, right? And how many different associations you want to sort of make this work appropriately. But I love the idea. It's a really interesting idea.
All right, JTP23, the detection of others' emotions is often thought of through the lens of visual perception of facial cues. Can this also be accomplished through detection of hormone release during heightened emotional states? Do we smell each other's emotions?
That's a great question. There has been some stuff that people have done where it is, oh, look at me remembering how to do that. Yeah, there has been some examples of people being like really scared and then like collecting their sweat. I didn't even remember what I was supposed to do in here, so I was all excited that I did it, and then I don't even know what it.
I think it's just the message, right?
Oh, okay.
That gives you the secret.
Go this way?
Yeah.
So there are, so like it seems like there's a possibility in that front that it does affect your ability to detect other people. And also I'll mention too that like when people, you mentioned it, Ken, too, like, you know, women coming off of birth control, sort of changing their perspective on their spouse. It happens when people have olfactory disorders. There's sort of like a rate of divorce that sometimes happens and stuff like that, and then feeling less connected with your kids. So there's some smoke here in terms of it relating to it, but like how exactly it does that is not exactly clear, because we don't have the same sort of pheromonal system that mice do. So mice have, I thought there was like a secret door in one of these things. Maybe I'm just misremembering. The same system that mice have and dogs have, which is your accessory olfactory system. So if you ever see, dogs put their nose like in the pee of another, dog, it's because they're sort of stimulating this vomeronasal system, their accessory olfactory system, and it's sort of a blind sac with a pumping mechanism, so they literally have to be like in it to make it work. And so like that's why your dog does that, is because it's getting a sense of smell that you're not even able to detect, and so it's getting this stimulation, and then it's making decisions from that. So humans don't have that system at all. There's a vestigial part of that. So maybe we did at some part, or our ancestors did, but we don't have that. So like it must be just through the main olfactory system, which is what we use normally to detect, coffee and all of that stuff. So that was a long answer of saying that like, yeah, a bit, but it's not exactly clear how it works. But there's a bunch of smoke there. Yeah. So there's probably something.
I mean, those extreme examples where it changes your family dynamic, right? I mean, is that sufficient to be accepted in the community, or is it like somebody lost their sense of smell, so they just became angrier in general? Or like, what's the correlation versus causation?
Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of the sort of debate, and also it's a isn't there like a bow and arrow? How do you use the thing? What was I going to say? It's also related to oh, that's where it is.
Nice.
And then this thing did something, right? Like you bomb this area and then you go, nah, that's not where you go. One of these areas add a secret.
Yeah, there's all the secret passages.
Oh,
Wow.
oh, it's not a secret. It's just like back to this room.
Yeah. Shortcut though.
Okay,
We'll take
it's a
that.
shortcut. I forgot what I was saying. I'm sorry. I got distracted by the
Oh
game.
man, I did too, because you found the secret wall. Like, that's what sucked. So those of you that play video games now don't appreciate, back in the day, you had like a Nintendo helpline that charged you $1 per minute to call them. But other than that, you didn't have the internet to look up these secrets. You just like learned it through friends, through social networks. Like, I don't know if you remember that.
Yep.
But
Oh
it's
yeah,
like-
for sure.
And you learn there's just some stupid trick that there's no way you could have known, and it just sucked. Especially when you'd rent a game and you'd have it for like 12 hours and like, oh, you didn't know the secret? Well, you're screwed.
And then there's just like this endless frustration where sometimes you'd quit games because you couldn't get past like a specific area or look past it, and you just would be like running around in circles trying to figure out what happened. Like it was.
Yeah. No, I'd recommend watching one of the speedrun videos and just be like, they completely obliterated this game. Just like knew how it worked and they destroyed it. So
The thing that I always tell the kids they don't appreciate is like how great it is that to be confident that your game is going to save. That was the thing with Nintendo, right? Like you're like maybe it's going to save, maybe it's not going to save, and then like I just spent 8 hours and I got nothing from it.
what's even better is there's some games that wouldn't save, but you're like, I gotta go to bed. So you leave it on overnight and you hope when you wake up in the morning it's running.
Yep. And you had to just be okay with it. It's probably good. It's probably a good like lesson to life. Just being like, it didn't save. I have to just move on and just have to move on from it. There was nothing like you couldn't do anything about it.
I'm sure this had like far-reaching waves of implications in like how we vote now or something. Like an entire generation
Yeah.
affected by that shit.
It is.
Ooh, that's a fun one. Cloak, welcome to stream. Thank you for joining us first time chat. You should click the follow button and follow us even if you're never going to be on Twitch again. It helps our numbers go up. We love numbers going up. It helps our visibility, but also get notifications about future guests. But thank you for asking a question. And the question is, do you have a favorite and least favorite scent?
Ooh, that's a great question. There are multiple answers to that. I think my
Is it
favorite scent
trimethylamine?
is yeah, it's one of my least favorites. Although I can't like hate on it because it's also been like, you know, this nostalgia to it with
Yeah,
right?
your kids love it, so.
Yeah, that could be true. I have to test them. But that being said, like I don't like it's so bad that we don't have it in the lab. Because you just crack that thing open and it just takes over the whole lab. So like when we moved here, I was just like, when I started my own lab, I was like, nope, we're not having it. It's not a thing. So my favorite odor is probably isoamylacetate, which is like,
That's a great one.
right? It's like the smell, if you guys don't know, it's like the smell of runt bananas. It's like smells just like that. And so like that's probably my favorite one because it sort of reminds me of that. And so my least favorite one is probably trimethylamine. It's so strong and it's like, so yeah.
What's fun about trimethylamine is it's not that different in structure than, say, methane, right?
Yeah.
Like it's very similar in size and shape, and it's bigger, but not that dissimilar. But the isoamylacetate, the fun factoid on that, you guys are getting a free factoid. They actually use that to test gas masks. So that's the smell that comes off banana bread, and apparently we're very sensitive to it, and so they use that to test gas masks. Yeah, to see the efficacy of that. I don't know if it's related to a particular, it might be related to some kind of, you know, toxin, like similar shape and size or something, but yeah, they use it to test gas masks. It's fun.
That is cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. I wonder if it's also like people like that smell in general too. So.
Yeah, it's better than
Right?
something terrible. Spend all day.
They're like, what do you want to use? They're like, something good. Please, something good.
Oh, not farts. Sorry, cuddle puppy.
Yep.
Oh, I mean that's follow-up question. What is the active ingredient in farts that makes us so disgusted by them? Is that a mercaptan of some kind?
It must be, right? Like it's sort of the rotten egg smell of it.
Yeah.
It's sort of mercaptan. I mean, you're the chemistry expert. You tell me the answer to that question.
Active agent in farts, that is probably...
It must have like, I don't know, some sulfurous components in it maybe? I don't even know.
Farts can be flammable if they contain hydrogen and methane. Thank you, HoustonMethodist.org. I don't know why that was.
It's, of course, where I get all my odor information from.
Hydrogen sulfide gas and mercaptans. Those are probably the main ones.
Okay.
This is great. What website is this coming from? A typical fart is composed of 59% nitrogen, 20% hydrogen, 9% carbon dioxide, 7% methane, 4% oxygen. Only about 1% of the fart contains hydrogen sulfide and other mercaptans. So yeah, that's it.
Okay.
It's a low doping percentage, but enough to let you know that it's happening. All right. Anyone just joining us? Ask a Scientist Gaming, mediocre gameplay, expert science. Our guest today is Dr. Adam Dewan. He's an expert in olfactory sensing and sensory perception is particularly related to smell. So if you guys have any questions, throw them in chat. We're happy to answer them. While he plays a little bit of Zelda, we're on a nostalgia kick now. Played the new games. Now we're back to the old school. Do you remember the crippling nature of that rectangular controller digging into your palm?
I do remember it, and I'm sort of like I walked right to it, but then I walked to the third level. I couldn't remember where the second level is. I didn't know where I was going, but I went straight to the third level. I got to try to remember where the second level is now.
Yeah, if anyone in chat knows Zelda, get some backseat gaming if you guys are interested. All right, so one of my favorite questions on stream, I watch a lot of movies. My wife and I have been cord cutters for, almost 20 years now. It's been a long time. So we watch a lot of movies. And so one of the questions I ask is what movie gets your discipline right? What gets it wrong? What movie do you see where you're like, oh my God, they've completely bastardized everything I know and love? Which ones have been like, oh, they did their homework. They actually talked to somebody that's an expert. This could be loosely defined, not necessarily, smell, but neuroscience in general, biology, whatever hits you close to home.
In terms of smell, it's usually the same thing that most people mess up. It's sort of like your sense of taste driving your sort of one. So it's, oh my God, these guys are like impossible. I forgot how hard they are. So that's usually the thing. In terms of neuroscience, it's always like, oh, we're going to replace the brain of something. And you're just like, man, we are so far away from that idea of being able to like replace someone's brain or like make those sort of like brain transplant sort of ideas that sometimes you have to sort of remind people that it's like you're asking for like Star Trek, Star Wars level things, and we're over here like banging rocks together sometimes in the neuroscience field, And so like, right? So, like it's very different in terms of that. So that's usually the things that are the most. You're like, okay, sure, right?
Yeah.
So.
Is there a particular example that you remember off the top of your head?
Man, I don't. Not one that's like, I don't. I can't think of one right off the top of my head right now.
We'll go with Frankenstein. That's the easiest one, right?
Exactly,
like
right?
Insert the brain. Oh man, no. What was the? God, there was one in the 90s.
Let's just continue.
Oh man, I'm gonna look this up. You guys need to know this. Have you heard of Tammy and the T-Rex?
No, it's Tammy and the T-Rex.
So, oh man, if anyone in chat has seen Tammy and the T-Rex, I will be impressed. So this is when did this come out? This is 1994, and it stars Denise Richards and Paul Walker. And
Denise Richards in everything.
Yeah, in the 90s, absolutely. Yeah. But Tammy and the T-Rex, spoilers everyone. So Paul Walker gets hurt in an accident or something, and they manage to put his brain into a T-Rex body, and that is literally the movie. So
I would watch that.
Adam, I'm sorry, your homework before you're on the stream again is to watch
Tammy and the T-Rex.
It does capture what you're describing exactly.
That is...
Man, you guys need to watch the trailer. It's absolutely amazing.
That is hilarious.
Tammy and the T-Rex.
Tammy and the T-Rex. I restarted. Like, let me do another one so we don't have to like redo the level one.
It's up to you.
Yeah, let's switch to one of the Mario ones if that's cool. So I don't have to redo the.
You want to do the journey? Start with Mario 1?
Sure, yeah.
All right.
See what I remember from that one. I didn't mean to start all over again.
No worries. As long as you're having fun, it's good.
Yep, I'm having fun. So, I'm definitely going down memory lane.
That's what we're here for. Frostbite probably gone already. All right, I'm going to bed, but fun stream. I'll see you in the lab tomorrow. So awesome. Yeah, go to sleep, get some work done. So what do you think the record time in this game is?
Okay, 26 minutes was
Zelda.
Zelda definitely takes longer than this game.
Yeah.
So like it's got to be shorter than that, like for sure.
Yep.
So I'm gonna guess half the time, 13 minutes. Oh,
So the current world record is 4 minutes and 54 seconds.
4 minutes?
Yep. So I personally beat this game in 5 minutes and 3 seconds.
5 minutes? Wow.
Yeah, it's you can't slow down. You just press to the right and you jump at the right time, and yeah, there's no slowing down.
4 minutes?
What's fun about this is this game is so optimized in the speedrun community that I think they are literally 3 frames away from a perfect run. Like a computer simulated run, a human is executed perfectly for basically 4 minutes and 54 seconds. It's ridiculous.
That's nuts.
Yeah, the most recent record was 5 months ago for the 35-year-old game.
Wow.
So yeah, speedrunning runs deep.
It must be cool if whoever designed this game sort of see it continue like that, right?
Well, the thing with it is they just discover all these loopholes that the creator never thought of, right? And so there's this one portion, I don't know how much you care about this, but you remember the vines that you go up and you find the warp? They figured out that the thing that tells you where the vine goes is not the vine itself, it's your position on the screen. And so they figured out if you jump backwards into objects on the screen, you can change your position on the screen. So you're not centered anymore, you're moved to the right. And they basically found that you can go down a pipe and it makes the game think you went up the vine. And that saves you 8 seconds.
How do you do this again? It's like you like run and then you slide?
Yep. You can,
Oh, my
yeah, you
goodness.
don't have to jump at all, just slide. Yep.
Okay, got it.
You'll go under.
Oh, that's interesting.
But yeah, I love this game just for like so close to optimized. Mario music makes me so happy. I agree. Laurie, have you seen the Mario movie? Adam, have you seen it?
I have not seen it yet. The kids watched it and they're like, they loved it. And my wife was like, oh, you got to see this movie. And I just haven't, but I would love to see it.
I mean, it's not like a profound storyline, but it was just a really
Nostalgia.
nice nostalgia kick. Like they paid homage to all the nuance, all the, details, the lores across, 6 generations of Mario. Have your kids played Mario?
They played it when we had the Wii. We played it, but I don't know if they remember it because that was back when we lived in Chicago, and Zach was probably only like 3 or 4 years old. So I don't remember if he even remembers this game at all.
Might be worth, yeah. I picked up a Switch to play Mario and Mario Maker, actually. So Mario Maker, you can actually design levels, and so there's just a shared world where anyone can share their levels. You remember the warp?
I did, and my brain just did it. If you had asked me 2 minutes ago, like, is there a warp? And I'd be like, I don't know if there's a warp. And it just did it. Like I was just like, oh, now you jump and now you do a warp, right? So.
Yep. Except the underwater worlds, those are the devil. Yes, Laurie, we agree.
Oh right, I forgot about those. Laurie even reminded me of the ones. Yeah.
Oh man! All right, let me dive into some of our questions. No moral qualms. We already asked that one. And speaking of no moral qualms, I mean, you could do the study about pick a population, get rid of their sense of smell, and see their divorce rates. Like you could take that to the most extreme possible scenario. But again, it's not causal versus correlation. I don't know how you would do that.
I mean, you could get rid of people's sense of smell by just exposing them to toxins. Like that would definitely happen. But it's like,
I mean, so you can selectively mutate out certain receptors, at least in mice. Is that
in mice, yeah.
Is that true? Okay. So in humans, that would be. I mean, that would at least let you differentiate particular smells and the outcome on social dynamics.
yeah, it's one of the wild things to remind people about is that like we know so little about how the human olfactory system works. Like I can tell you a lot about how the mouse works, and then basically the way we view it in the human is like it must be similar. So like you view it as there's 1,000 receptors and those are expressed in maybe tens of thousands of neurons each, and they converged onto these like balls of axons in the olfactory bulb, and that's sort of the convergence, and that's the glomeruli. But then and then in mice, you have 2 glomeruli per receptor, and so per side. And so you basically have this sort of relationship. Ugh, it's terrible. But in humans, it's different. And so all we know about it is sort of like trying to make this translation. But in mice, you have 1,000 receptors and 2,000 glomeruli. So you're like, okay, 1 to 2 ratio. In humans, we have 400 receptors and like roughly 1,600 glomeruli. So like it doesn't, the ratio doesn't match. So it must be different. And like, you're like, okay, well, if the ratio is different, then how does this thing work? And we don't even know whether there's like monoallelic expression, which means like one gene for our receptor, if that occurs in humans either. It's just amazing how little we know about the human olfactory sense. It's just wild.
I mean, is there potentially a research study that's around the corner that could come out in Science tomorrow that's absolutely devastating, where it says, we've been studying mice and it will not apply to humans, and here's why? Like, is that possible?
That is possible. It's possible. But I don't know if it'd be devastating because the whole field works in mice.
Yeah.
So like you're right. You couldn't destroy a whole field that quickly, right? And like, how else would you look at the stuff? And then the other argument I would make in terms of like, I don't know, maybe it's self-preservation argument.
Yeah, cognitive dissonance.
Exactly. Cognitive dissonance. I'm going to keep working on this.
Yeah.
Is that I think the olfactory system could be like a really good model for the brain, because it's what the other argument, the reason I love about it is because it I'm getting better. It's you have this sort of genetic control and then a connection, and so it goes to the olfactory bulb. You have all this great organization, and then the next synapse sort of like goes to, instead of in the visual system, you're going to like V1 and then V2 and then the sort of like very linear progression. In the olfactory system, you go from the olfactory bulb and the sort of great organization to 9 different olfactory cortical regions together. So if you think about like the olfactory cortex, it's 9 simultaneous regions.
Oh, by the way, everyone, we have cheat codes on so he doesn't lose firepower. I can turn that off if you want, but
I was like, really? That's weird. I'm just okay.
You're God mode right now.
I was like, okay, I thought I died in those cases.
Yep. Normally you would.
Ugh.
But yeah. So now I think you start without firepower.
Okay.
So, but you haven't.
I wanted to test the limits of my.
Let's do it. All right, J-Speed, welcome to the stream. First time chat, thank you for joining us. If you're not following, click the follow button. You'll get notifications about future guests. Every other Wednesday night we have someone on. Also, it helps our numbers go up, our visibility, blah, 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 a whole bunch of interesting things. But thank you for the question. They want to know, with psychopharmacology, do you have a favorite drug based off of how they act on the brain? Either personally or scientifically. I added the last part. That was not theirs.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The one I was most excited about when I was taking this class, the one I was most excited to learn about was like LSD, right? Because sort of the idea of hallucinogens and what that goes to your brain it was like the most interesting thing, I think. And so like that was the one I was most excited to learn about and think about. And it is still probably the one that I find the most interesting, but it's also somewhat of a disappointment because it's like, you know so little about these things. It's one of the things that's really hard about this class. It's like, it's really, until recently, there's not been a lot of money to study like what is actually happening beyond like the addiction aspects of it, just straight up the problem. So.
But LSD is one of those that like profound, in fact, impacts on people's lives. Like changes their religiosity, changes their philosophical beliefs. Like it's tragic we don't study that. And also treats like PTSD, things like that.
Exactly. So that's sort of the one that makes it really interesting. Is sort of like this viewpoint of PTSD, and then like reopening this sort of like critical window to like learn stuff and to relearn that. How do you kill this guy? You step on him?
No, you gotta just go around him or over him.
It's like, I don't remember what we're doing.
We got Game G, ladies and gentlemen.
So yeah, that's probably my favorite one because of just sort of the interest level and just the wildness of all these different hallucinogens.
Is there a least favorite, something that terrifies you?
What is the name of that drug? I'm sort of blanking out right now. So there's this really interesting guy that I can't remember his name of right now, but he basically he's an artist, and he drew self-portraits of, now I'm just like thinking instead of playing.
No worries.
that drew himself on a self-portrait on all these different drugs. And there is one.
Oh yeah, I think
you've seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't hit him. And so there's one on him that just scares the thing. Like his drawing of himself is just like, yeah, that guy.
Yeah, there it is.
And like there's one where it's just like all that one. Yeah, that one. What is that one?
Oh man.
That's the one. That's exactly the one I was thinking of.
Daily Mail. Which one's the right one? Psilocybin. Where is his?
That one. Bath salts.
Right
It's
there.
like the bath salts one.
Bath salts.
Yeah, like that. Like the fact that that's what he thought he looked like on this drug, like scares the bejesus out of me.
All right,
Right.
guys. Hold your breath on this one. There it is. That's the drawings that he did on bath salts. Holy cow.
So like that's the one that scares me the most.
So that's Adderall, psilocybin, mushrooms, Xanax. I guess it depends how much Xanax you take. And the style of the shining, blah, blah. 4 milligrams diluted. Wow. Man, good on him. There's DMT. All right, we'll go back to gameplay. But that's the one, the bath salts. I don't know enough about bath salts. Is that something you smoke or ingest, or what is that?
Yeah, there's multiple ways you can take it, snort it, stuff.
That's amazing. What a great exhibit.
Right?
Do you cover this when you go in class?
I use it as my the front page for my Canvas site. So like there's like a
photo.
no, it's like it's got a GIF to it, so it like switches between them.
Yeah.
And so like that's the front page of my Canvas site.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it.
But other than that, we don't really talk about it.
Lori has redeemed take a drink. So Adam, you're good? You still have some? All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Lori, hopefully you have a drinking fan. Cheers. Always a pleasure. And yeah, whatever questions you guys have, let's talk about sensory perception. Let's talk about olfactory senses, sense of smell. We've already gone over the fart topic, so maybe not that one again. Thank you, Cuddle Puppy. Cloaked ghost. What would you consider the scariest drug in neuroscience sense, like what it does to the brain? I mean, there's some that obviously like irreversible damage.
Yeah, like that's what I was thinking of too. Like something that just like
huffing
destroys
paint,
neurons.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It doesn't take a lot to damage the infrastructure.
The idea of just like destroying your brain and doing stuff like that is just in generally pretty scary. And so anything that does that would be on the list for me.
I mean, going into an epistemological argument relating to that, and this idea of a soul existing, I have a hard time, like a lot of people want to believe there's something above the network of neurons. But like any experiment where you take a hammer to the brain or you smell like huff paint, like it debunks that, right? Like I don't know how far you want to go into that, but like what is your perception of self when it's written in the hardware of neurons?
It's like it's a really trippy thing to think about, I think. And it's a really trippy thing to think about the more you think about neuroscience too, in terms of like what also is rewarded and stuff like that. And like a reward in your brain is just basically like dopamine firing in your like nucleus accumbens. And so this idea that the reason why you do the things you do is to get these rewards that are just encoded into your brain. And if you were just to like stimulate your brain in these areas, you would also get those same rewards, is a very trippy thing to think about. And so like the pleasures of sex or something like that, right, is being the so you can produce more babies, and the ones that like survived and had more babies was because of that.
Yeah.
It's like a trippy thing, and you don't take it to the whole like Richard Dawkins selfish genes sort of perspective where like genes are controlling. Oh, can you not shoot these guys? Oh, I forgot that. I forgot about those guys.
Austin, thank you for the cheer and the salt. Not bath salts, but PJ salt. Thank you for the emote. That is amazing. We'll compliment that with an OSHA warning. Salts. I mean, does that affect you on a personal level, like when you realize something at work? Because most of what I do is so abstracted and so separated from day-to-day life. But like, I mean, for you could go home and like, oh, I love my kid, but it's because a chemical release makes that happen. I mean, does that mess with you regularly?
It makes you think about stuff too, right? It's like it can. It doesn't. it doesn't like change too much of it. Right? Because it sort of have this, but it does sort of mess with you a little bit in terms of like this happened. I think it more messes probably with the children. I'm like, do you know why? Right? Like it's like you just fall into that mode of like telling them something and
yeah,
like
and they're too young to fully grasp it. And you regret it. Yes.
And so it more relates on that front, I think.
Oh yeah, I probably introduced the idea of bacteria way too early to my kids. The invisible monsters that live with you.
I think that's a smart thing to do. How much it makes a difference with the kids washing their hands. I think you probably made a good decision on that front.
That's true. The nightmares are totally worth it.
You can reduce the sicknesses in half, then you've made a good decision.
Oh man, it has not worked. every other week something. I still have a residual cough from 2 weeks ago.
It's hard with kids, right?
Yeah.
Like it's really hard.
But did it get better for you? Was there a phase where the amount of sickness? I mean, daycare is brutal. But
daycare was brutal. The kids were all three of them were home for the like 2 years with COVID,
Holy
right?
shit, yeah.
So like it was also a year and a half where besides getting COVID once or twice, we were healthy. And so then you forgot what it was like to be sick all the time with small kids. And then they went back and then they got like literally every disease. And it felt like for an entire year we were sick like every day. And then after coming off of like not being sick for that long, and it was like, I completely forgot about what this was like. Just like the constant aspect of it. So yeah, so there is, oops.
Oh. Right through the platform.
Right through. I did it the same thing with both of them. But yeah.
All right. Eli Williams has requested a factoid. Do you have more knowledge bombs you want to drop?
I have more.
We've gone through a lot of them.
We've gone through a lot of them. My favorite one, if you guys weren't here, and I'll repeat it, and then we'll do another one. Is that dolphins have no olfactory receptors, so dolphins don't have a sense of smell, and they don't have an olfactory bulb. Their olfactory bulb is replaced where their blowhole is, and so like that's my
oh no, that was beautiful until the fall.
I know. Thanks. It's like the minute my brain goes to like I was trying to read the piece of paper at the same time, and that was not what I should have been doing, or maybe what I should have been doing. But yeah, that's the other one. Or we can do another.
Oh, you got the double jump.
I got the double jump.
That's awesome. Those of you not familiar, there's like several frames when you get a mushroom where you grow bigger, where you can actually hit the jump button and jump midair, and that's an awesome move. They use that in the speedruns all the time. Actually.
Yeah, that's.
But yeah, okay. So dolphin, no sense of smell. You were gonna follow that up with
smell with Oh, I don't want to use that one because that was one of the questions that one of the other questions.
Oh yeah, we should do a prediction. Okay. It's 10 o'clock. But factoid, do you have anything? Doesn't have to be science related. Personal hobbies.
Personal hobbies. I was at some point in my life like not into science and not into academics as much, but soccer like drove my life at some point of things. Yeah, and so like I like would play all the time. And like that was my like central focus and hobby was playing soccer. And it wasn't until like high school and I broke my kneecap, and then in college I got serious about academics. But that like before that it was like very much like soccer related things. So yeah, that's my
was that like I want to go pro one day kind of thing?
Yeah, like when I was little it was like that was that. I didn't think I was never that good, but I was like an all-state player, and so like I wasn't like terrible.
Yeah.
So but I didn't like that, but it was like a lot of people who know me, like my wife has never seen me play soccer. Right? Like
She'll never believe you.
Right? Like it's the things, and both the boys play, and my little girl plays, and so like it is sort of like become a central thing, and I'm sure she realizes that I did play because I can kick the ball, I guess. So, but like it's sort of like a part of my life that like doesn't overlap with everybody.
Yeah. That's fun. I tell my students that too. They don't appreciate that we had lives before this.
Yeah,
I was actually a really good athlete back in the day, but yeah, I was a high jumper in college.
A high jumper?
People don't believe I could jump over 2 meters, but yeah, I was
High jumping is when you run up and then you go backwards right over the thing, right?
The Fosbury flop, yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yep, the Fosbury. So, but prior to him, it was you would like scissor over it because they didn't have padded mats early on. So like you try to land on your feet. And so as soon as the padding came in, then most people still jumped that way. But then he's like, well, I can land on the pad on my back, and it changed everything. Because you changed your center of mass rather than being in your body, it was below your body because you arc your back. But anyway,
no, that's
into the details.
That's interesting.
little sports mechanics for you guys right there.
Yeah.
All right. Oh,
I don't think people, I was like, I don't think because when you talk to students too, they're like, oh, you must have just been the kid that got all A's and just like did that stuff. And you're like, nah, not really.
Yeah.
That wasn't me at that time. It wasn't just like an all A valedictorian sort of situation. It was like sports and doing other things and like a normal, like sort of more the normal aspect of it.
Well, that's what I tell my students too. Like, spoiler, I was a 3.2 GPA in undergrad. Like, I was an athlete. that was my big thing, and I changed majors 4 times before becoming a chemist. So, yeah, winding trails.
I don't know what I was doing. I literally talked about someone yesterday, and I was like, you'd be surprised with how many PEIs, right, weren't like the top thing in their class. They sort of like had this sort of just mediocre sort of grade point average, and then all of a sudden like just turned it on and sort of think about life differently and think about sort of science in a very unique way that sort of allows us to do this job.
Well, and the reality is, and I don't know about you recruiting grad students and admitting grad students to your program, but like GPA is not a predictor of success in grad school. Nope. It's like, do you have resilience? Are you creative? Are you thoughtful? Can you troubleshoot? Those are things that you do not assess in a classroom, just period. And it's crazy. All right, follow up on the soccer discussion. Cashew Chestnut wants to know, what's your favorite soccer team?
So my favorite soccer team is like, it's sort of like separated into different areas. The one that me and the boys follow a lot is, it sounds like a homer and a bandwagon, and it's not, but like Manchester City is the team we watch the most, probably me and the boys. We were, when they were little, we had something called Dude Day. And my wife used to work on the weekends, and so me and the boys would have Dude Day every single Saturday. Yeah. And so we just do all sorts of stuff, and we do all sorts of fun things. And then so one Dude Day, we were we're like, you know what? We need a Premier League team. We need to have a Premier League team. Like, we need to pick one. And so we started watching games, and like we're like, we need to pick one. And this was before Manchester City went on their huge run of being being amazing. And we watched a game where they won 6-5. And the boys were like, that team. And then like, that phrase right before they went on their run. And then they were like, and Zach, as my oldest, was like, let's cheer for that team. Yeah. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. That's our team. Yeah. And then like, it was just because they had this great offense and they were fun to watch, but they had a terrible defense. And so there was lots of goals and action. And that was sort of their first year. And then we've just sort of like watched them the most. But the thing we watch probably like is sort of the national level teams. And so it sort of shifts back and forth, but obviously the U.S. national team, but then watching like all the different World Cup games. And that's, I shouldn't give away facts, but like that's another thing that I've done since with my dad since I was younger, is we've gone to a lot of World Cup games and like.
Oh, wow. You travel to the World Cup.
Yeah. Awesome. And so like I've been to, I was in like my first ever World Cup was in the 90 World Cup when I was only, whatever it was, 10 years old. And so, that was a very cool experience, and then went to the U.S. one, and the France one, and the Brazil one, and so
that's awesome.
It's a big part of life, and now the boys play, so like we're all this weekend will be soccer. So.
That's awesome.
And the little one plays like literally all day Saturday will be soccer games. So
I mean, how hardcore are you on that? Like I find myself like my daughter did martial arts for a while, and I was like a black belt, like national fighting champion, and like I watch you like, straighten your hand, tuck your thumb in, like I start to feel that itch. Like how does that affect you? Do you feel that while watching them? I
mean, it depends. Like I just sort of like want to help them the most. So like, to some degree, like I am definitely coaching them throughout this thing and just being like, this is what you need to do and to focus on. But it's more of like, and the boys will definitely say this too. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care if they lose 8-0. It's like, did you play well? And did you like do the right thing in the soccer game? Like the score doesn't matter to me. And so it's more like that. But if they score if they're scoring like their 8th goal, like they're scoring a goal and it's like the wrong decision, though. Oh God, the water levels.
It's all right.
The water levels.
The nice part is, as long as you don't fall down a hole,
Okay, then
you're
it's fine.
okay.
So
Lori,
yeah,
this one's for you.
a little bit, but not.
Yeah, not aggressively so.
Not aggressively so, but I do enjoy watching them play too, more so than like wanting to go play myself. I definitely enjoy watching them play.
That's fun.
And like seeing their successes is even more exciting, right? And so like if watching them score a goal, I think is been more exciting for other one. And my oldest one didn't score a goal for like the first couple years that he played soccer, and then watching him score his first goal was way more exciting than me scoring any goal too that I've ever scored. So,
but it's stressful watching that miss and like, yeah, no, I feel that. Actual Education, welcome to the stream. First time chat. Can you climb the corpses? Yes, to some degree in this game. Fun factoid: as long as you're not holding the jump button, whether you're going up or down, you actually smush the enemies. Yeah. So yeah, the jump button is what does the hit detection. So yeah, you can climb up dead corpses and move up. Actual Education, a lot of self-motivation needed to get through a PhD. Absolutely. Like, passion is everything, drive is everything. It doesn't matter what discipline you're in. Grad school is hard. Research is hard.
Yeah, and you have to find something that you love, because there will be a time when science is not working, and you have to love it enough that you're ready to go to the next, go in the work the next day and do it. And it's a weird career in terms of the level of failure that you sometimes get and have and deal with and just come right back at it. So
Actual Education, yeah, the hardest 10 years of my life. Absolutely. We all feel you. If it wasn't actually 10 years, it sure as shit felt like 10 years.
Yep.
So I appreciate that. All right, Macaroon Brunola, science question. I understand that orchid flowers don't actually produce any nectar, but only produce a fragrance and pheromones to attract pollinators. Do you have anything to say about that?
what flower did you say?
Orchids.
Oh, orchids. That's a I didn't know that. I didn't know that piece of information. That's really interesting. It's not surprising. Is that a statement? Is that like people have just evolved them to be that situation, or was that like originally the first orchid has that too? Like a wild orchid has that.
Orchid not produce nectar.
That's a really cool thing. I'm learning a ton on this thing. You guys are asking great questions, and like, I feel like I'm learning.
Aardvarks and
I'm listening like on space and like, right?
Yeah.
I tell students sometimes, like, it's like, if it seems like I know a lot of things, it's just because I've been in science a while and people have asked me questions and I've looked up the answers and just remembered those answers for the next time. Where are all the bad guys?
Oh, so this one you have to do a path. I don't remember what the path is. It's like up, middle, something. It'll just repeat unless you do the right path. And if somebody in chat remembers it, yeah, go ahead. Oh yeah, according to Imperial College London, I'm just reading the preview in Google right now, but it says, evolutionary trick, key to the orchid's success: by not producing nectar, they can divert more energy to growing strong and producing more successful future generations. So yeah, they don't produce nectar. So that's fun.
I think that you'd only be able to trick the pollinators once, though, with that thing. Although maybe that's not true. I don't know.
All right.
Again?
Beer, welcome back to the stream. I'll get back to your two factoids. We'll get back to those. Lori has a question. Have you ever heard of people describing a food that tastes like something smells? For me, some red sauces, usually pizza sauces, taste like the smell of pennies. Is that a thing, or is that just weird?
That's a great question. I've never heard that specific thing, but there is something called parosmia, which we haven't talked about at all, which is when you have things smell different than they should normally. And it's one of the things that occurs to people sometimes when they lose their sense of smell. And so we talked about this earlier with COVID and other, oh God, I have to do this again.
Do you
forgot the pattern. I think it was low, medium, high, but I don't remember. And so you sort of lose your sense of smell, and then you, yes, it was. Okay, so it was. So you lose your sense of smell, and then it comes back, but it doesn't like reform out those axon connections. And that's at least my theory about how it works. And so you, it sort of connects in a way. And so what happens a lot of times is people have, and I saw a movie about this in class. Sometimes if I'm doing a very generic lecture, I'll show it too, but this of someone who suffers from parosmia, and she should have lost her sense of smell by having like a really bad cold, and that's not and it's not uncommon to sort of have that situation occur. And then when it returned, it didn't work properly. And so she like smells everything like it's burning and something like that. So
God.
that it must be terrible because you like eat a regular food and then it's like it smells terrible. And so that could be that can permeate certain smells.
Yeah.
And so that is a one possibility of what that individual person is explaining is some sort of very specific parosmia that is for that. Okay, you start low and then go high.
I mean, so for someone like that, is there, this might be morbid, but is there a surgery where it's just like burn your receptors? Like I would rather not smell anything than have to deal with this the rest of my life.
You could make yourself anosmic.
So I think it was down.
Was it down now?
Yeah, down, middle, up on the first cycle.
Down, middle, up.
Yep, and then you get to the fire bar.
Oh, okay.
Yep, there it is.
Then I'll die here again.
That's fine. Mediocre gameplay, Adam. You have zero pressure to perform here. Try middle-ish up. I don't even know where it indicates where you're up or down. Oh, is that it?
Okay, now I wish I was
small.
I wish it was this small.
Just
I got one
commit.
chance. I haven't done this properly yet.
Just commit. Oh, the hammers. Brutal. That was good, though. I think we know the path now.
Okay, now we have a path.
All right. We have 2 requested factoids, one from Huggy Beer. Huggy Beer, welcome back to the stream. Always a pleasure to have you on. Adam's happy to answer questions about olfactory sensing, but also factoid from Huggy Beer, as well as one from Cashew Chestnut. And I'm going to run to the restroom, so drop your knowledge bombs on the audience.
Okay. Factoid. The factoid that I can come up with is related to the olfactory system. We talked about sort of olfactory dysfunction and sort of the prevalence of it. It's sort of like somewhere between like 15 to 25% of the population suffers from olfactory dysfunction across their lifetime, and it sort of increases across age. So there's that one we talked about, and then the other the factoid is sort of that we're doing is like the number of olfactory receptors that different species have. So we okay, low, and then we'll go middle, high. And so like a cow has roughly like 800 of them, which I find crazy because a cow has even more than we do, but a dog, it actually has more than a dog, and so that's sort of a surprising aspect of it. So that's my factoid, that the cows have more olfactory receptors than dogs do. So it's possible that Bessie out there in the field can smell better than your dog can, although that's not for sure. Okay, so low, middle, high. Nope, wasn't it?
Bottom.
Okay,
Bottom, middle, high.
Bottom, middle, high.
I don't know what you did on the second one.
Bottom, middle, high. Yep.
All right, so we dropped 2 factoids on the audience.
I did, yeah, about olfactory receptors, and then a cow has more olfactory receptors than a dog.
Huggy Beer, do cows have the most?
Cows don't have the most, although they have a lot. I wish I could remember which. I think elephants have a lot of olfactory receptors. I think they have. It sort of starts to even out. So cows have about like 1,000. Mice have about like 1,000. 500 or 1,050 or so, and then like I think elephants have 1,300, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. I remember the exact number.
So my quick Google search of most olfactory receptors says African elephants.
Elephants, okay, good.
5 times more than humans, and the most of any animal characterized to date.
Okay, I got that right.
According to Google. Trust my immediate search result. All right, so we got factoids. Huggy Beer, do cows have the most? And no, the answer is elephants have the most.
Okay, can we, is there a way to switch the things? I think I'm like stuck on this level.
Switch things. You want to switch games?
Sure, yeah, or like, yeah, sure.
Which one do you want to do? I mean, we have Mario 2 lined up, Mario 3.
Let's do Mario 3, because that's the one where you could become like a raccoon, right?
Yep, that's the classic.
See if I can remember that one. I was doing okay until I got stuck at that one level, and then it sort of like petered out quickly.
All right, so what's your speed run guess on this one?
Okay, so it was 4 minutes for Mario. It was 20 some minutes for for things. I think this takes longer than the original Mario. So I'm going to say 12.
Let me see the exact number. So any percent, no wrong warps. All right, so at any percent no wrong warps, meaning somebody doesn't completely break the game, the record is 10 minutes and 41 seconds.
Okay, it wasn't close.
That was...
I'm getting better.
Wow, Mitch Flower Power got beat. There was a guy that held the record for years and years and recently got beat, apparently. 1 year ago. There we go. Any percent, if you do break the game, it takes you 3 minutes.
Really?
Yep. It's amazing. There's a video clip, Super Mario World. Do you remember Super Nintendo, the first Mario World? There's apparently a way that you can write to the RAM. You can basically say, if you put a red shell here, if you jump at this time, you can program to the RAM through the sequence of things that you do. So you can essentially write to the credit warp through that memory process. And it's ridiculous that they can do it. And they can beat it in like 3 minutes. Absolutely ridiculous.
Is that frustrating? Like you said, you speedrun. Is it frustrating to do that? Because if you're like, you race through it and you're like, oh, 6 minutes, right?
I mean, it's one of those things that you have to do things that are hard over and over again, right? And you're going to fail 90% of the time.
Yep.
And so like you have these bottlenecks where it's like, if I miss this one, I've lost the speed run, hit restart and start over again. So if you're doing a 10-minute speed run, you maybe run a minute and a half 100 times to get that one run that goes all the way to the end. So it's a resilience problem for sure. But the thing I like most about it is the scientific aspect where it's like, you have to develop a methodology, right? You have to make a plan. You have to find the loopholes in the game. And it's just, yeah, I love that part of it. All right, macaroon granola, science question. If all land species came from the ocean originally, then did the fungi / mushrooms come from jellyfish? I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah.
Fungi fall under the plant taxonomy. I'd assume it... I mean, plant life transition from the ocean to land makes more sense than animal, for sure.
Yeah. I think one of the cool ones to think about is like the corals, because like those are like sort of the initial ones, and the respective is like their larval. Oh, I can't even do that. Their larval stage is like a free swimming thing, right? And so like that is sort of like an interesting transition of something that starts at a I didn't know about that. That starts as like a free living thing and then transitions to a like sort of something that it's not a plant, but like looks like sort of a stationary aspect of it.
Yeah. I think jellyfish evolved from fruit trees. What? I don't know where that came from.
Okay.
I'll give you maybe. I don't know enough biology to say you're wrong, but all right. We better do another prediction because we have at least one more. I mean, this one we haven't covered at all, right? That's a fun one. It's related to the discussion we've had about mammalian and number of sensory receptors. All right. So we're going to pop up another prediction, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not following, click the follow button, get your standard internet units that you can bet them on this science question. Question will be popped up right now. You guys are going to have 2 minutes to answer. Don't Google, don't chat GPT. You know the answer or don't know the answer. Make a guess based on meta information or whatever you know about Adam. The question is, do birds have a sense of smell? Yes or no? Pretty straightforward question. Anything you want to add? Does the avian species have, or avian, what would that be?
Order?
Yeah, order. There we go. Apologize. My biology is a little rusty. Oh, God. Huggy beer. Jelly, fruit, comes from fruit. That's, yeah. It's funnier when you have to explain it. Huggy beer, you are right. Unfortunately, chat doesn't have the nuance of the delivery of the joke, so it was lost on us. I apologize. Do birds have a sense of smell? Yes or no? Put your predictions in there now. Click the predict button. If you're not following, click the follow button. It'll let you bet more internet points, depending on your degree of confidence. It also helps with our visibility, and we like to see our numbers go up. We're up to 727 followers, which is not bad. We've done like 74 streams, something like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
What's crazy about Twitch is if you have like 5 viewers, you're already in the top 5% of Twitch. Because like
Really?
most of people are just streaming to no one. If you don't have an interesting angle, if you don't have a good setup, like You can stream all you want, but nobody's going to watch you. It's only the 1%ers that get a huge number of viewers. So our dozens of viewers is actually not bad. We
That's
take
awesome. Oh, it's a really fun idea, and it's a really cool thing. So happy to be on.
Yeah, there's a bunch of science streamers actually. It's not an uncommon thing. Some people just exclusively discuss science. Other people they'll do crafts. So we have a regular on the stream, or a regular in the chat. His Texas Space Agency. He's actually a blacksmith.
Oh,
he actually
cool.
streams his blacksmithing, so he shows him doing the work and things like that. So yeah, it's a really fun medium, that's for sure. All right. Oh wow, we got basically a 50-50 split on this one.
Oh wow,
So,
cool.
Do
That's a good
birds have a
question, then.
sense of smell? Adam, what is the answer?
They do have a sense of smell. It was originally thought that they didn't. So you're with scientists. There was a long way that they thought that they didn't have a sense of smell, but it turns out they do, and it's really important. Seabirds in particular need their sense of smell for survival, and it helps them figure out where they're going, and they sort of can navigate with it. So it's really important. And I don't want to give away all my facts because I've been doing that, and that was a poor decision when you guys asked me facts alone. But I don't know, I can't help it sometimes that I think about it. So chickens have 300 olfactory receptors to sort of highlight the importance of the olfactory system for it. So they do have a sense of smell, and it's important for both survival, finding mates, all that stuff. So
I mean, so that's interesting. I guess in flight it probably doesn't matter as much, or are they still sensing in flight?
they should be. I mean, if there's odors carried on the air, then it's possible that they can sort of find and sort of potentially navigate upstream for things. But I wonder if seabirds are really doing a good job at that because of sort of the smell of fish and that sort of prevalence of it. I wonder if that's why in particular people have done that, or because one of the people who sort of champions that birds can smell, studies seabirds. And so maybe that's why we know about this, is that it's just based on who did the research.
Yeah.
It's and what their chosen thing was. So
That's fun. Cashew Chestnut says, your cool grad student says, hell yeah, that's my boss. Playing video games, your internet fame is climbing.
it's
sir.
climbing. That's good. trying to not embarrass everybody.
Man, did you know about Justin's YouTube channel?
No, he has a YouTube channel?
Yeah, he has a YouTube channel, and so he did a lot apparently before. He just started this year, right? And so,
Yep.
but he has a couple videos that have 80,000 views.
What is his YouTube channel?
It's just various different aspects of consciousness and neurobiology and stuff like that. So yeah, he has a couple videos that went really big. I mean, really big in the sense of science videos, because 80,000 is not a trivial chunk of views.
No, I mean that's so cool. I mean, oh, you can't hit that guy apparently. That is so cool, and it's one of the things that he might be affecting a ton of people with that sort of things. That's a very cool thing. I'll have to
Well, and
watch
just
this stuff.
visibility, name brand recognition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really cool. I guess he slowed it down this last semester, but he wants to get back to it this summer. So yeah, you should definitely check it out.
I will definitely do that. That's just about it.
Cloaked Ghost, request a factoid. You might have the most request of factoids of any guest we've ever had. I told him to prepare 5 to 7.
I
It's
know,
been,
and I
20.
prepared 9.
Oh no, I'm sorry, I let you down.
And then we're still we're low. A factoid about, can I do one
there's
about
something in the
light?
lecture yesterday that that was just a
can
prompt.
I-
It doesn't have to be.
A factoid about something that is about life. That oh man, I'm completely
Frozen.
sorry.
So I make you do extra work, but now it makes sense, right? While you
Yeah,
want it written down. Under pressure, it's hard.
It is hard to sort of especially the facts, because you're sort of it's prompt in a specific area more so than
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a prompt.
Okay,
in
give me a prompt
something.
something.
Particular chemical that's relevant to mice and their survival. Is there a particular smell agent that's
Yeah,
key
so
for them?
we could okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
So a bunch of my postdoctoral work, and Ellie Williams, who was on here, her work is based on this specific chemical called phenylethylamine. And that chemical is highly enriched in predators. And so it sort of makes sense that you have this and one of the receptors that we work on are all these different amine receptors, and sort of like predators eat a lot of meat. Meat breaks down to amines,
and it's specific.
And specific ones, and so like a predator urine in particular, that stuff has that. I guess I'm doing this again. Has a lot of the phenylamine, and in fact, got another one. So like when we had to do this project, right, and work on this, we had to find some predator urine for this project. So the idea was we were looking at these knockouts of these receptors called trace amine associated receptors, or TARs, and they respond to these amines. And there's this particular compound, phenethylamine, that it's really activated and is present in predator odor. And so we had to find a predator odor. And factoid, right? My dad used to be the president up until this fall, was the president of the Philadelphia Zoo. So instead of, even though we were in Chicago, we got our predator urines for that paper from the Philadelphia Zoo because it had a sort of connection to it. So
that's awesome.
Random factoid that was.
So I love that the predator smell, like factoid, but it's because it's one of those things, like, it makes perfect sense, but not something you would think about intuitively, right? Like, you reflect on what they digest and what the byproduct should be. It's always going to be the same pathway or similar pathways. That is amazing. They smell similar. And if
it smells
eat meat, it's
just like it.
That's crazy.
Like first time I got this, like, it's weird to say. Like factoid, I have smelled many types of pee from other animals. Like that's what you do in science. It's weird. Science is generally weird. There's a lot of weirdness in it. So like I know what giraffe pee smells like. I know what puma pee smells like. And so puma pee especially smells like just like the same compound.
That's amazing.
I mean, that was the first time I really thought this experiment was going to work. When I first got it and smelled it, I was like, oh my goodness, it smells exactly the same to me. There must be some relationship. So,
man, that's amazing. It's a urine smell, or do they sweat a particular smell?
It's not a, like what you think of as like a hardcore urine smell. Mm-hmm. It's more of like a like old cat pee is what it smells like. Not just like pee, but like old cat pee. Like really old cat pee is what it smells like.
That's awesome.
So like that is the sort of smell of it. And so yeah, it was a interesting thing. But not like when you buy predator urine that, okay, we've jumped the shark. It's gotten weird.
It's 10:30.
Okay, sorry for putting it on here.
We're several drinks in. It's fine.
It's gotten weird, but like if you buy predator urines for like keeping deer out of your yard and stuff like that, like though it doesn't smell anything like that. And so what they do for those predator urines is like they have animals in cages, and they sort of collect the urine over time and then present it. And that sort of smells differently because you miss those like initial volatile ones. So it doesn't smell like that at all. It's more of like this very like, again, I apologize, weird, like fresh pee, like predators.
There's nuance, ladies.
It's weird. It was weird. I got a nature paper out of it, so at least there was some benefit from it. But like, it was weird. It's weird when I know all the stuff, and I can recognize that at the same time.
So, Cloaked Ghost, so this urine was getting mailed to you? I have many questions about how you got this pee and how it got to you.
I can answer all these questions. I got answer to these questions. Okay, so...
is there a standard urine that you buy? Is there a standard across...
Oh my god, I can't play a game. So, the answer to the question is, like, my parents live in Philadelphia, right, obviously. And so, what happened is I basically went home and then like dropped off supplies for like a cooler, and then like a bunch of different test tubes, and then gave them all the information to like, you know, all the stuff so they could go collect fresh pee from the zookeepers could go collect fresh pee, and then they shipped it on dry ice to Chicago. And we had like a FedEx account that they could do it, so they had dry ice because they have to send. I've forgotten how to. Do you step on him?
Yeah, you jump on his head. And avoid him when he's in that phase. Yep. Nice.
And so first try. Now after I was so embarrassing on the other one, but that's what happened. And they shipped pee to us, and then I got the pee and we froze it in -80 and like aliquoted it out so we can use different aliquots. And so yeah, pee came through the mail.
So your experimental section then is like literally from this zoo at this time. You bottled it up. Here's how we sampled it. Here's how we processed it.
Yeah, and it was, you have to, like, when you work on with animals, right, you have to do an animal protocol, right? So you can, the ones, and I had to do one for the Philadelphia Zoo for them to collect things. So I had to write
like
a
an
protocol.
IRB, wow.
I had
It's
to write
vertebrate research, yeah. No,
and even though it was just collecting the pee, like I had to do that as well. And so we wrote one for them to sort of do that and collect urine for that stuff. So, and that's what the question that I used to always get all the time. They're like, how come you didn't get this from the Chicago Zoo? Because Chicago has great zoos. And I was like, oh, gotta focus. I didn't expect that. I was like, well, I sort of had this connection with the Philadelphia Zoo, so I made it a little easy. I knew a guy.
You need urine? I'll get you urine tonight. I'll get you right now.
and it's one of these things where sometimes the hardest part of those things is like getting someone to like write you back, and having the last name of Dewan. It wasn't a concern, right? Like they were going to respond at least, even if they were going to say no, they were going to at least like
at least courtesy.
I was going to get a response at least, right? So,
oh, that's awesome. I like it. All right, we're at 10:36 right now. I'm guessing NARC's gonna take you something like 20 to 24 minutes. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. All
right. Do you want to see the clock or do you not want to see the clock? I can put it there. I can put it up here.
I'll take it right
right to the veins. All right.
To the veins.
Anyone that's not familiar with Ask a Scientist Gaming, we close every stream by forcing our guests to play NARC. But not only do we force them to play it, but we force them to play it under a clock. And so they have to actually go beat it as fast as they can. And they're competing against their colleagues across all of my guests, of all previous 60-something guests that have been on their stream. And you're trying to do it as fast as possible. But don't worry, they have infinite lives, infinite rockets, infinite bullets, so they will not die. And Adam will win the war on drugs tonight. So sweet. I actually have a copy of the original cartridge right here, the original box right here. So I'm going to read the game to you so you know the lore before you start this journey. Yes. And so, you are Max Force. Your mission: bust Mr. Big and destroy his dreaded criminal empire. Seize all contraband, stolen money, illegal weapons. Use rocket bombs, high-powered machine guns. Apprehend all suspects. Protect the innocent and punish the guilty. Stop at nothing.
Okay, I have to not come in last.
And we have two take a drinks to
okay, let's finish up this. I'm finishing up this beer.
So, thank you, Austin. Way to use your internet points for the good of mankind.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right, are you ready? So the clock will start as soon as you hit the ground. Go ahead and press the start button. I did give Adam a primer on the buttons, so he knows that at least. But yeah, walk right, find doors, go as fast as you can, and you are competing against your colleagues. No pressure. Perhaps Austin is rooting against you, undermining your gameplay. But yeah, if you guys want to distract Adam, the way to do that is ask questions. Ask the most absurd science questions you can during our remaining 22 minutes on stream while Adam tries to beat this. Go through the door, find the next door. There'll be key cards along the way. Oh man, what do I... Oh, this is an interesting one. I mean, in my lab, we break flasks and break equipment all the time. What's the biggest mistake or accident you've had in your lab? It's related to mice or dropping a canister of trimethylamine?
That's a good question. The biggest problem we had in the lab was not one that I caused. So like, oh my goodness, it's just eating me.
If you hold both buttons, you can shoot the dogs or rocket them. Either one.
Got it. So the biggest one was not my mistake. Actually, when I was a postdoc in Northwestern, we had a cold room in the other room, which is basically just like a large freezer, walk-in freezer, and it leaked all the time, like it rained in there all the time. And so like they were fixing it one day. What happens now?
Next level.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was good.
So they were fixing one day, and they were soldering a piece, and then they sort of hit the smoke alarm and trigger the smoke alarm. So we have to abandon the room, right, and all that stuff. And so can I go in this one? Nope. So we had to leave the lab and go to outside. And when we came back in, the entire lab was flooded.
Oh.
So they built like
it'll be all the way up.
Okay. They built drains in the floor, but it was the highest point on the floor that they put the drains. And so like there was like it was draining, but it was the highest point in the lab. So there was like 2 inches of water in the entire lab. And so we had to like over the course of the time like just remove all the equipment. They had to drill holes in the wall and take out the drywall to replace the things. And it was like the biggest hassle. And then the worst part of that story.
Okay, brief intervention here. So you're going to need bullets and shoot these guys wearing black. So hold the shoot button. shoot these guys. One of them will drop a black card. And so you have to do it somewhere reasonably close to you. If they're too far away, they won't drop the card because this is Nintendo and it's stupid. If you hold both buttons, you can shoot the dogs. There you go. So bullet, not a rocket. For some reason, rockets, they won't drop the card.
Are those the cards?
No, it's a blue one. You'll see it when it happens. This is what we call in the speedrunning community as RNG, which is random number generator. Your odds are like 1 in 8 of dropping a card. So yeah, stay by the door and shoot with bullets at close range, and eventually one will drop a card. Anyway, sorry I interrupted. So flooded, they drained it.
They drained it, they flooded it. Oh my goodness, am I never gonna get a... I'm blaming it on this.
Costing valuable time. We're pride at stake here, ladies and gentlemen.
That's not a card?
Nope. You'll see it. It's gonna be blue. Unless you picked it up already. There it is.
There it is, okay.
So swipe the card door slot. It's realistic.
I love that. That's funny. And so then, like, we did all that. We had to replace everything and do the one. And then, like, 2 years later, we show up on I show up on a random day and come into the lab. It's flooded again, and like the water fountain that was in the hallway had burst over a side and like flooded the lab again.
And they didn't fix the drain between those two.
Nope. It was on the floor. Oh. And so like I had serious PTSD when I came to to here, and I was like, "Is there floors in the drain? Is it okay?"
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that was probably the most expensive mistake that had, and it was like they had to just, and it was so we had just like fans in the lab all the time.
So you can jump in the car. Yep. You're gonna crash into a wall, but it's fine if you stay on the bottom. So tap B.
B.
Yep. So stay on the bottom. It'll get you a little bit of the ways, but you're going to run into stuff, and you can't. Unless you were memorizing it. But yeah, that bought you some time.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
So yeah, that was the most expensive difficulty. Otherwise, it's just like I haven't had anything yet, knock on wood, that I've destroyed anything. It's like that was a giant.
I mean, so have you ever had a grad student or known of a grad student like overexposed to something? I mean, if you get enough of any of these smelling agents, it could, cause dizziness, pass out. Is that any stories of that happening ever?
I have a what are we doing here?
Jump over that guy. Sorry. Okay. Tap the B. Yeah.
Oh man, you can jump high.
Yeah.
So no, I had a this is a funny story because the person was okay. And so I had this this undergrad who worked with me and did stuff, and he was like the most like monotone response person ever. So like I'm sitting there working on my computer doing stuff, and he's like just completely just like Adam, I think someone fell over. And you were just like, and I was like, what? And he's like, I think someone fell over.
A joke,
right? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, and he just like points, right? And then there's someone passed out in the lab next to ours, and so we had this like 3 labs together, and like I run over there, I'm like, go call security, like not security, but like the ambulance thing that's on campus. I don't know, right? Like whatever, call that person and so they check on it, and like this person had just like passed out in the lab next to it and like fallen on the floor, and sort of like it was scary for a minute.
Yeah.
Turns out the person just like hadn't eaten, had like a sugar.
Oh, it's just unrelated.
It was just unrelated, and so it wasn't related to anything like that. But as I remember the most about that undergrad. He was a great undergrad. He went to grad school. He studied like plant biology and stuff like that. And so like that was.
So you're gonna want to stay on the bottom of the screen again.
And so like
actually, you can go up to the top now. Yeah, that'll buy you a little extra. There you go.
And then so like the and so like that was the thing I remember most about him. Is he was a great student and all the thing, but like just being like, Adam, something fell over.
So he's not the most emotive of individuals.
No, it was all you're like, what? Wait, what?
Oh, NASA girl, welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. If I remember correctly, you followed us from a Hoodle stream a couple weeks ago. So thank you for joining us. Presumably astrophysics related. Someone fell over, monotone delivery. Yes, absolutely. So NASA girl is redeemed. Take a drink. So Adam,
I'm done.
You want another one in 15? There we go.
Okay.
All right, in the car, stay on the bottom of the screen, go all the way to the right. But NASA Girl, yeah, if you have questions, Dr. Adam Dewan is here answering questions. He's a neuroscientist slash psychologist. He studies olfactory perception, particularly smell and how we process smell in the brain and how that can affect our response and how our genetics are related to that, or at least how mouse genetics are related to it. Lori has redeemed Take a Drink. Holy crap. There's been a lot of internet points on you tonight.
Okay.
Cheers,
Is that good?
everyone. Yeah, we'll count it. Okay, drink and drive. Oh.
Or it's a student and she's like, oh, maybe we can not have class tomorrow.
Oh man, they're trying to poison you.
That's a good plan.
If you guys have questions, one, you can distract Adam from the game, but two, you can get answers to your questions for the next 14 minutes. Also, if you guys have suggestions on people we should raid, preferably educational streamers, but we're flexible. If you guys have any suggestions, happy to take them. If not, I'll take a look at the Knowledge Fellowship and see who's online. Oh, you remember me? I feel special. Well, we only stream every 2 weeks, and so yeah, we get to know our people pretty well. It's not a daily endeavor, and yeah. So if you have questions, Adam is happy to answer those.
Yep.
Sorry. So go all the way to the right. You're going to go to the final door on the right, and you'll find a silver card. And so heads up, at the end of this, you're going to grab the card and go up, but don't go through the door. Cuddle Puppy, thank you for the troll. I forgot you. You're welcome. So don't keep pressing up once you go through that door. So you go through that, but don't press up more. Yeah, there you go. Go left. People usually run back in and have to do that loop again. So you saved yourself an additional 2 minutes.
Okay, good.
All right. If you guys have questions, ask them to Adam. I'll ask one of our canned questions. Do you have a favorite equation?
I have an equation that's like for my heart, a favorite one, like things. It's like the Hill equation, which is just basically a dose response curve. We do a lot of psychophysics and stuff like that for stuff. So like we use that equation a lot in the lab, and so like that's probably my favorite equation. It's sort of like that. So
go through the door. This is the only one you're going to go left. Okay. So I completely broke the model here.
How long did that take, like the person to figure out? They're just going right all the time and be like, what is happening?
Yep. And so what you're going to do is you're going to shoot these Rambo-looking guys at close range with a bullet, similar to the black coated people, and they're going to drop a green card at some point. Ooh, Cloaked Ghost has a fun one. What was your worst subject in school?
English.
So bullets instead of rockets on this one.
Oh, okay.
They don't drop anything when it's rockets.
It's okay, so I will do that. So yeah, English was probably my one. Like I sometimes I look back on that time and probably like should have spent more time like learning to write because it's so important now, right? But like if you told my high school myself or like even my college self that I'd have to spend my time like writing and like talking in public, I'd be like, I'm gonna be poor.
That is literally all we do. That's literally all we do.
I'd be like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm probably gonna need food stamps and I'm just not gonna make it. Yep. And so like that's what I sort of thought. So like English was like definitely my worst subject, and so
it's something you didn't appreciate until you had to use it. And what blows my mind is how quick kids are learning this stuff now.
Yeah.
Like my first grader comes home with like the special phonetics and different sounds, and like, correct me if I'm wrong, but we never learned that stuff.
I don't remember.
Just like, I don't remember knowing half the things she knows as a first grader. It's crazy. Yeah, you're right, Cloaked Ghost, though. But we spend so much time writing, but it's a lot of practice. And the sad part is we don't get any training in this. It's just like, you're an assistant professor, your job requires you to get money, figure out how to get money, and it requires you to write well.
Yeah, that's sort of the funny part about science. It's like that's the part I love about it too, is that there's no like, you're always learning. It's like it's never stagnant. Mm-hmm. You're always like learning, and it's just like you solve with problems and you have to like solve them. And so you're like, okay, well, to do what I want to do, I have to be good at this. I guess I'm going to be good at, I guess I'm not to be good at this. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things that I tell people is like my favorite part. Can I go in there?
No, just keep going.
It's like having a PhD is like, it gives you the confidence sometimes to realize that you can just learn stuff.
Yeah.
And do it. And it's one of the things that like permeates through
so you have this card.
I have a card already?
Yep.
Permeates through your life. I mean, the best example was during the pandemic. That's one example, not the best example. But during the pandemic, the kids played Just Dance all the time. Like that was what we like did. If it was like it was rainy outside or stuff like that,
dance.
like it was Just Dance.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was the game. And we had like a Kinect on the Xbox. It's one of the reasons I bought the Xbox for the kids. And so the same thing. I have to find some guy up and shoot him up close.
Nope, you have this card. Sorry.
Okay, dog. So the is doing that, and so the Kinects died. And you're like, oh no, what are we gonna do with these Rammy boys that are like the things? And like the choices were like fix this or they're gonna start wrestling, right? And then like every night. So I was like, okay, well, you know what? I will just figure out how to do this stuff.
Yep,
and so
yep.
Looked up some YouTube videos, took it apart, soldered some wires together. It works now, like a hot wire that connects.
Wow.
And so like no skills in that, just like learning from doing it or like replacing the kids like iPad screen that broke and stuff like that. So it's for those of you who are thinking about getting a PhD, it is, oh my God, these dogs are like.
And expanding upon that, one thing I tell the students is what you do in grad school is very unlikely to be anything related to what you do in your future career.
Oh,
and so what they hire you as is not a expert in X, Y, or Z. They hire you as a problem solver, someone that can learn. And so those are the abilities that you should have after leaving with a PhD.
That's exactly what I tell students too. Like, like almost word for word. Like that's exactly what I tell them too.
All right, so this guy, the guy in the wheelchair, you're going to shoot him with a rocket because he's a drug dealer, and he obviously deserves to get shot with a rocket.
These dogs are the most irritating thing ever.
So he'll come back.
Oh my!
Nintendo hitboxes. There you go. No, he's going to inchform off, and you have to do that twice more.
Twice more.
Yep. All right. Cashew Chestnut says, "What do you like most about being a PI? What do you like the least?"
The thing I like the most about being a PI is like coming up with experiments and thinking and doing that part. Like that is by far my favorite. That's why I always wanted to be a PI. Was like the coming up with experiments and thinking about those more so than doing the experiments. Like I'm really, even at this stage, like happy having other people run the experiments and just sort of finding it. So that's sort of my favorite part, and my favorite part of just being like it's different all the time. It's never boring.
That's
like
true.
it's so different all the time. The skills you have to have, and like you're just learning, and it's changing all of the time. And so like that is my favorite part of it. My least favorite part of it is sort of like the
there you
got
go.
3
Gold card. Yep, he'll drop one. He'll dissolve into a gold card.
It is like all of the
Bureaucracy.
bureaucracy.
Yeah,
you know,
I knew your
the
answer.
words came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Like exactly, that's the part that I like the least about it, and sort of just dealing with that is the worst.
All right, I'm going to walk you through the boss. What you're going to do is go to the top of the screen. This is phase 2 of Mr. Big. And at the very top of the screen, so his tongues can't hit you, you're going to have to jump and shoot a rocket on the way down and hit him in the hat with a rocket.
Oh my
So
God.
you're going to want to run away. Yeah, imagine figuring this out when you didn't have the internet. You're going to run away, turn around, jump, shoot a rocket at his head.
I thought B was jump.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tap B 7 frames, and then on the bottom tap A, or on the way down tap A. Oh, there you go. Okay, rocket his face now. You don't have to jump anymore. Just all right. Now walk away from him over here, and you're gonna like walk in this region. So stop, turn around, shoot bullets. So hold the shoot button, and you're just gonna kind of move up and down, and eventually it's gonna hit something like that. You saw his vertebrae disappear. You're gonna do that over and over again. So you're gonna want to be in this region.
So just wait for him.
Yep.
Okay.
And then turn back, shoot at him, move up and down a little bit, and hope. Yep, just like that. So do that 4 more times, and you have him beat, actually. Your time is looking pretty good right now, as long as you get these last ones. All right. To follow up on that, what I like most and least, in addition to what Adam said, which I agree with totally, what I like most and like least is humans. Like you are mentoring students that are individuals, that are humans, and sometimes it's awesome when the light bulb goes off, when they learn something new, when they challenge you for the first time, like major landmarks and their achievements. Those are all great, but then also, you know, they have problems in lab and you have students crying, all right, gold card, go. Holy crap, you are flying. So go right. This is civil forfeiture the level, because who needs due process in this video game? All right.
He's been doing some of these 24 gold carrot things.
Yep. 16, 18. Holy cow, that is a good time. Let me double check where that puts you. I mean, you want to know where you are on the spectrum of?
Might as well have some.
All right, I just updated the list actually. Put your initials in, classic arcade
I
style.
love that.
So, other than me you are the fastest NARC time.
No way.
It was the hat. Usually that jump shot in the hat takes people like 2 minutes. And so you are now currently, aside from me, you are currently the best player. So tell Justin, where was he? Justin Riddle. He was at 21 minutes and 6 seconds.
Oh, man.
So holy crap, you tore through that. So GG's
wow.
across
I beat
the
him
board.
by almost 5 minutes.
So fun factoid, I am the former world record holder in this game. So
What?
my
Seriously?
fastest time was 9 minutes and 7 seconds.
Wow.
So it started out as a joke. I played this when I was the guest on the stream because it was from my childhood. It was like a bargain bin game that I played a lot. And then I made guests play it, and then I got a challenge to speedrun it. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And so what I did is I applied scientific method to that boss fight, and I figured out if you despawn the wheelchair guy off the screen, he comes back like 10 seconds earlier. And so through that's how I got the record. But you are now the fastest guest on this game. So
Well, thank you. Thank you for helping me with that, because I would have been lost on some of those stages for
Here's
hours.
the thing. I help everyone. And so sometimes I even do the last boss for them, which is why there's asterisks next to certain names here. But holy crap, you tore through that game. So congratulations. You can.
Wow.
I'll send you the list. You can tell your kids you are the best among the.
Well, if nothing else, I got some good bragging points for the kids. So
Of the 64 guests, you are number 2 behind me, and that's not even really fair. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Cuddle Puppy accuses you of hacking. Hacking a 35-year-old Nintendo game. Let Adam have his joy. Don't ruin it, Cuddle
it's
Puppy.
okay. It's okay.
But
It comes easy, it goes away quickly.
But yeah, that's the end of the stream, ladies and gentlemen. We won the war on drugs. Congratulations. And you beat NARC in record time amongst the guests on Ask Scientist Gaming. If you guys have suggestions on people you should raid, put them in chat now. If not, I'll just find somebody random on educational streams, see who's up and available. But yeah, thank you all for joining us. Adam, any parting words for the audience?
No, this was fun. Thank you for having me. And thanks for all the great questions. And I feel like I learned a bunch and a lot of things I need to look up and to look in. So
You have a bunch of homework.
I have a bunch of homework, but that's great. That's how I'm going to learn. And then the next time people ask me questions, I'll look like I'm even smarter. And so I'll know some more things. And
Well, what's the list? There's aardvarks.
the aardvarks, the in space,
Yeah, sense of smell in space.
sense of smell in space, which was a great question. I wanted to look more into the orchids and understanding that one. Like
The
that was a great
non-nectar.
question.
Yeah.
So like there were
Most importantly, you have to go watch Tammy and the T-Rex.
and I have to watch Tammy and the T-Rex. I gotta watch that.
Oh my God, it
That
is amazing.
that is,
you guys should take a look.
I will. Tammy and the T-Rex. I got to do that too. I got a lot of homework, but it'll be fun. It's good.
All right. Well, Adam, thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. I've learned a lot. It's been really fun. You guys, every 2 weeks, we're going to have a guest up until I think May 15th is our last guest of the semester, but we'll go through the summer as well. Our next guest is Elisa Gentry, who's actually in the College of Law. She studies health law, risk and uncertainty, pharmaceutical regulation, and how that all ties to economics. And so, yeah, not science, at least in the rigorous sense, but health law is something that's a mess, and I look forward to learning a whole bunch a lot. So March 6th, 8 to 11 p.m., swing by. If you're not following, click the follow button. You get a notification when we go live. We only go live every 2 weeks, so your notifications will be limited. But if you want to know the guests that are coming up, you can check out our About Us page. Also, you can follow us on Twitter or join the Discord channel. You can see the upcoming guests. But yeah, everyone, thank you. It's a pleasure. It's always great having you. Your questions take us down interesting roads. I always have a lot of fun. Adam, thank you for doing this. Thankfully, we've met in person before. I asked you to do this, so you didn't know I was a complete lunatic, but I appreciate your willingness to join me and play some video games. Skylander was fun. I'm glad I learned about that one as well. So yeah, congratulations on your record NARC time.
Thank you.
So yeah, stick around. We'll find an educational streamer to raid, but it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.